It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy, Alex, and Jason are here. Lots to talk about, including a change at the top in Apple's AI leadership. We'll also talk about a surprise manufacturer for Apple's next generation chips, the new Apple holiday commercial. It's made of puppets, and we celebrate the 34th anniversary of a critical Apple technology. It's still around. All that and more coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 1001, recorded Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. Beschmirckled. Hey, everybody! That's a terrible way to get a show. Hey, everybody! It's time for a show! Let's gather around, kids. Time for MacBreak Weekly. I am your genial host, Leo Laporte, and joining me from left to right, Mr. Jason Snell of Six Colors.
Hello, I'm over here on the left of your virtual podcast thingy. Hi, it's good to be here.
In the middle, Andrew Janatko.
Center channel. Center channel. Center channel. Center channel.
And now, right channel, Alex Lindsay of OfficeHours.global. Hello, Alex.
Left surround. Right surround.
Remember that? What is that from, like the Sound Blaster setup?
When I do my test for my theater project, my voice, and so you have this left, right, center. Left surround, right surround. It's a channel checker to make sure that
it's better than
listening to 5.1. Yeah,
let's make sure we're in THX. Meow. Yep.
Oh wait, I got something. Hold on.
Oh no, this. We didn't have time to get on the rails.
You pulled the tiger's tail, didn't you? With
already off the rails.
Man. No, didn't even get on. Train didn't even leave the station and it derailed. How is that even possible?
Alex has put his...
Why, George?
Oh, that's
little dude. It's the doll of
the guy who fixes the THX thing.
Yeah, a friend of mine, Michael Coleman, had one in his garage, as you do. He was like, "Do you want this?"
As you do.
Yes, please.
There should be a history of those little things now that we no longer go to movie theaters anymore and we'll never see them again. THX had a few.
It's all just Nicole Kidman going to
That was
movies.
the one with the...
That was the one.
Or was that...
that was the one with the big... It's the logo, and then the logo falls down.
Yeah,
and
he comes and fixes it.
I like the one where they actually adapted from a Simpsons episode where the like all the teeth of the audience shatter as they watch the THX,
That's hysterical.
THX sound go.
Mashed Potato said, "Rum Sleg has put on weight, Alex."
I asked them what the top THX, like, what's the top complaint? You know, because it's called THX. They're like, the movie's too loud. What's the second top? What's the second one? The movie's too quiet. Like,
yeah, you can't win. Yeah. You cannot win, can you? Well, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of not winning, John Giannandrea has finally left the building. This was
retired.
Yeah. Was he fired? Was he retired?
I mean, people can always come out of retirement. Retired just means I'm going to take some time off and think about things for a while.
Yeah.
Or there's a clause in his contract that allows him to put in for retirement at a certain point. And
it is December 1st, which seems like a...
No, he's apparently retiring next spring, which again leads to a suggestion that maybe there's some contractual kind of like obligation here. It feels like this is, you increasingly get things taken away from you until it's very clear that you're not going anywhere, but probably there's an understanding that they're not going to fire him. They know what his deal is. He's going to just kind of fade away, and that saves face for Apple, and it saves face a little bit for him, and he can go on to something else or just take the money and run.
Yeah, before we go too much farther down this, give us the CV of Mr. Giannandrea.
Well, he was the head of an AI project, AI division at Google, and he was a big get for Apple.
He was the head of AI at Google, and then when Google acquired DeepMind, they suddenly had two heads of AI, and they decided to pick turn DeepMind into Google DeepMind, and suddenly Giannandrea became superfluous to Google's needs, and therefore a really, really quick decision.
He ran search too, though, for a while. There was a point in time where he ran search for Google.
Yeah,
And then he went to Apple, and his move to Apple was highly heralded. Like, we've got him. We got the big fish. This is going to change everything.
Yeah. A guy with a lot of credibility coming from Google, which is a company with a lot of credibility, especially when it came to AI stuff, in that era especially. And it didn't go well, and we don't know the reasons. I think that there are feelings on both sides that Apple's corporate culture maybe didn't match with what they were trying to do. If I had to deconstruct this as somebody who was not involved, I would say my guess is Apple's corporate culture is not a good fit for people who think in a more we're hacking on AI development way, and let's see what happens next. And now here's a new product release 3 weeks later. Apple is very product release focused on a hardware side and a software side on a release cycle. And I wonder if we're messing around here learning things about AI, and I don't mean lazily, I mean like intensely, but the way the AI world is going, I wonder if it didn't fit, it didn't mesh, and certainly the moment of truth was when Apple promised a lot of things for AI and then failed to deliver them, and I got the sense from that there was really a culture clash where Apple was like, we need a product and we need to ship it, and they're like, well, it'll be, you didn't like this one and we're working on it, and like it's just a bad fit, and I think that more than anything else is the truth here, is that it's not about who did who wrong or even the right way to do it. It's more like there's the way AI development culture runs and there's the way Apple product development culture runs, and they don't seem to mesh very well.
Yeah, especially there can be, I consistently love the differences between Apple and Google. Again, yin and yang, they're not right and wrong. They are opposites that often define each other. And one of them is that Google still has its cultural legacy as we are a university that does all kinds of projects and all kinds of research that we don't know how we're going to productize this yet, but it's interesting and we're hiring the right people to basically start with nothing and an interesting idea and then see if it can make money before it costs us too much money. And that is absolutely not Apple's culture. Yeah. Again, that's not right or wrong, but Apple is not the company that says, you know what, this is kind of an interesting idea. Let's play with it for a while and see how it develops. So it can be hard. I can imagine it being very, very hard for someone who was the head of AI at Google if he did not have the ability to say, no, here is the roadmap that we're going to follow and here's how we're going to follow it. Not necessarily having the ability to simply say, here's the stuff that we're going to ship, here's the stuff that we're going to develop, and here's the roadmap that I'm setting for everybody.
Yeah, it's not even about innovation so much as it is about how you get from point A to point B. Yeah. And like you said, Andy, there's a lot of, I'd say a little bit more academic, but also just a little more in the spirit of some of these AI startups where it's like, let's see where this takes us. Let's try a bunch of stuff. And Apple's innovation is spurred by a goal toward a product that has deliverables and that has a purpose. And again, I think you can look at both of those and see the advantages of both. And it's clear that Apple has missed the boat on development of its own AI models internally. I think we all agree about that. We can debate like whether it matters and how much it matters and all of those things. But I think that the truth is that the way they approach product release and software features even is not necessarily the same approach as a lot of people in the AI space culturally. And that, that is one of the reasons I think that there's a disconnect there that leads to something like that Apple intelligence announcement where there was clearly a disconnect internally.
I think the challenge is that, I think when you, for a lot of companies, the move fast, break things kind of approach to a process is the only way to break through on some of these areas. And I think even Apple in the early days of rip, mix, burn, was a little bit like, pushing the outer envelope. But I think that they're, resistant to that now for obvious reasons makes it hard. You can see, as Jason said, there's an advantage to saying we're going to build a long pipeline and just slowly build the infrastructure and move into that area. And it's just kind of a glacial push. Whereas with, when you do the move fast and break things, you end up with a lot of spaghetti code. You end up with a lot of security issues. You end up with a lot of breaking a bunch of rules that, become problematic. But you also get to break a bunch of ground. And, and I think in Google, I think in the extremes of Apple and Facebook, I think Google's kind of in the middle of that.
Yeah, and in addition to everything else, remember that Google has always been foundationally a services company, which means that they're pushing electrons from one of the biggest compute resource maps internationally that exists, whereas Apple is a hardware company. So it's harder to simply greenlight, hey, here's a software project that all we have to do is allocate resources for it, and we'll run it and just deploy this as a service. Whereas the question at Apple is always going to be, how will this help us to sell more iPhones? How will this help us to sell more Apple Watches? And again, not right or wrong. It's just simply the way that Apple operates versus Google.
Google also culturally, I would say, is not... I mean, again, trying to be really fair here, because I use lots of Google services too. Google is kind of not a product company. It's more like it's a concept company, and products emerge and escape, and some of them work and some of them don't and are killed. But it's kind of a byproduct of Googlers just doing their thing. And any interaction I've had with them has very much been like, super nerdy, let's try it, whatever. And then at some point, if there's money to be made, the suits rush in and everything gets contracted and the money gets carved out and all of that. And I think that's a cool culture to have in a lot of ways, because you can do a lot of innovative things. But it does lead, like, I'll give you an example. I needed to build some AI integration into a workflow of mine, a cloud workflow of mine. I was automating it it's just a whole bunch of different pieces in the cloud. There's a Google Sheet involved. I need to post to Discord. I'm going through a web service to do it. And I had this moment where I'm like, an LLM would be great here. I would really like to process a big chunk of text and summarize it and categorize it before I pass it on to my Discord. Okay. To set that up in Google AI, you have to go to Google Cloud and turn things on. You have to go to Google AI and turn things on. You have to build a project that generates a page with like a sidebar full of code files and all this stuff in order to, and this is all based on the documentation, in order to back out and get an API key and all of that. And to use OpenAI, you go to the OpenAI API page and make an API key. And that's it. And I thought, that's a great example of a cultural difference, that OpenAI is like, what people want to build on our stuff, we'll charge them this, here are the rates, here are the models, here's your API key. Google's like, great, we have a whole system where we have a code builder and our cloud system is tied into our development system, and it's all interacted with your Google Drive. And like, if you're in there and you think like Google, it actually is pretty awesome. But for me, I was like, forget that. I'm just going to get I'm going to use OpenAI because OpenAI has productized that API in a way where Google's like, whatever, just mess around. And Apple is very similarly very product focused in a way that mindset, it's just different. It not right or wrong even. It's just different, and they lead to different outcomes, but it's very hard to get the cats and the dogs to live together. Right.
Yeah, I think that reflects Google's ambitions versus OpenAI's ambitions, where OpenAI is hands down the most popular chatbot on the planet. It basically won the let's Google this, the verb war for chatbots. Oh, I'm using ChatGPT for this, even if you're not necessarily using ChatGPT for this. So they're very much a user-oriented sort of service. Whereas Google, their ambitions are, if anybody anywhere in the world wants to develop anything involving AI on any platform and as an international service, as something for your small business, or something that runs on a device, we want to be your go-to shop to actually make that happen. And so they're not really optimized towards individual users. So it's nice that there's so many people fighting this out. I'm really keen to see where Giannandrea winds up next, because there's no way that he did not fail out of Apple. I think it's pretty much understood that it was just an incompatibility problem, or they ran a certain set of plays that did not pan out, and now they need a new defensive coach. I'm making stuff up because I don't know football, but there's no way that he's not landing on his feet and maybe doing something more inventive, more innovative, and not quite so demanding of results in 6 weeks.
Nerds are going to hate me, but I will use that football metaphor, which is the 49ers hired a defensive coordinator when their DC got hired away, and the guy was like, I use a different style of defense, and they're like, no, it'll be fine, you'll come in and you'll coach our different style of defense. And at the end of the year, they're both like, bye, see ya. And it wasn't even like, you're not a bad coach, but like, you're not doing what we do here, and we're not going to let you do what you want because we have our goals here. And I mean, it happens all the time. It's okay. I bet you John Giannandrea goes somewhere interesting after this, but he will have cashed in a lot of money from Apple in the meantime.
And he's got a long time to think about it. Like it's not like he has to like, oh, I got to go find another job. I mean, he can take a year.
There's also a larger trend in AI that's going on, which is that the senior people in AI are kind of up and out, are moving up and out, I think. And I feel like it's the AI movement is being driven by very young.
I think part of the problem is that it's moving so fast that if you were in it for 10 years, you may not really understand what's happening next.
Old school.
It's like like that's not because it's. And what's incredible is just how far it's evolving, but how quickly it's changing.
Yes.
And we all know that we're not even close to what the final landing place is going to be. Like all the stuff that we're doing right now is probably all of it will get thrown away in the next 3 to 5 years.
So the interesting thing is Apple's gone back to the well and brought in an executive from Google to replace Giannandrea. Amar Subramanya was at Microsoft for a while. That doesn't bode well. Talk about a cultural clash. He was the corporate vice president of AI at Microsoft. Before that,
for like 5 months, I think he hit the wall at Microsoft.
Briefly. And then before that, 16 years at Google, where he was head of engineering for, Gemini, the thing Apple is rumored to be adopting for Siri's intelligence. So maybe that expertise is the real reason they're bringing this guy in. Apple said he's renowned. So it's in the press release, so it must be true. Renowned AI researcher Amar Subramanya has joined Apple as vice president of AI, reporting to Craig Federighi. He'll be leading Apple Foundation models, machine language research, and AI safety and evaluation. The balance of Giannandrea's organization will shift to Saba Khan, who is the new CFO? COO, yeah. And Eddie Q. I don't know. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, because some of it is sort of servicey stuff. If I do my Apple criminology here,
yes, please.
What I would say is I think Apple has learned some of the lessons that we're talking about here, and that Craig Federighi knows, sort of like from a product standpoint, he knows what he needs to ship. Also, Apple seems to have pivoted, and we've talked about it on the show, to, at least in the near term, working with partners because they know their stuff isn't good enough. So they're going to work with partners, and they're going to, potentially white label Gemini and put it on their private cloud infrastructure, and so they're working with partners. I think in the long run, Apple doesn't want to have to be reliant on someone else's model. I know that the Google Maps metaphor has come up a little bit here. The idea that in the long run, you might want to have your own model, but the current model development hasn't gone well and isn't good enough. And Apple especially wants a good model that runs on device, right? Because that kind of fits in with everything else that they're doing in terms of their chip design and in terms of how they deal with, private information and all of that. So, you set up an organization and say, your target is to make our Apple Foundation models great. We're not going to use them right now for a lot of stuff other than maybe on device because they're not up to speed. But in 2 years or whatever, we want to be up to speed where we could cut over or have this be the default and have everything else be a fallback. I think that is ideally what's going on here is that, they're not going to, I think maybe they're going to reset the clock and say, look, we're buying time by having a partner. So you just go out and work, and in a couple of years, we'd really like you to have something that is worthy of being in an Apple product.
Yeah, and Apple, and when you think about it, Apple and Google are probably maybe the two best companies to work for if you're an AI. From the point of view of Google has all the money coming in from so many sources. There's they definitely have a strategy for AI, but it's not as though we need to figure out how to make AI profitable within the next 5 to 7 years, or else we'll be in big trouble. Apple is similar. Where Google, you don't have that same kind of direct pressure. Apple again has kind of the opposite virtue, which is that we have an AI strategy, but we are not an AI company. We are just trying to enhance our iPhones, enhance our iPads, make our devices more useful and more friendly. We don't have to ship something breakthrough this year, next year, or the year after that. We just want to get there eventually. Just do good work and make sure that 5 years from now we never have to restart our AI program ever again. And so that must be a very in OpenAI, like Sam Altman famously, the Wall Street Journal had access to an all-company memo that essentially said that, dudes, we need to get some money coming in. We're gonna have to start doing ads. We're gonna have to start. We're bleeding, and I don't know how much. It wasn't as dire as that, but it was very, very clear that the
time to make money.
The awe and wonder phase of OpenAI's AI is transitioning into we need to actually figure out how to turn this into a viable business. It was actually
yesterday's memo. I just want to mention that the latest memo is code red. We're putting advertising back on the back burner because, man, we got to get a model out here.
Oh boy. Well, cultures, right? Like
that was like cultures. They flipped in 2 days or something. So
Nano Banana 2 and Gemini 3 created a lot of buzz.
That scared a lot of people.
That the very latest OpenAI developments did not really create that kind of excitement.
If I were Craig Federighi and if I were this new hire, I would also extol the virtues of an interesting area of AI, which is on-device models, to say, Apple's number one goal may be to have the greatest on-device model. Yeah. And Apple's hardware is really good there. Chips are really good. We're going to give you access to all these accelerators on all these Apple Silicon processors. Here are the new Apple Silicon processors that are on the roadmap. This is where we're headed. Build a great on-device model, because that's one of those places where Apple can really differentiate itself. If stuff models can run right on the phone while you're not even talking to your network and your data never leaves your device, that is not necessarily the area that everybody else is focused as closely on. Google a little more now. And, you could probably make a pitch to recruit people using either of the things that Andy and I just said. They're right. Not everybody's going to do it, but I think Apple can find some good AI people with that pitch. And I think their new hire knows some.
So it's tough though, because you're skating to where the puck is going, and the puck is a very erratic trajectory these days. I don't know how you plan for next year.
The puck is a rugby ball, and it's bouncing erratically, and you've set your entire system for a puck that goes linearly.
I still think Apple's big advantage right now, and why they tend to try to do the best they can to protect privacy, at least for their own internally, is that there's all this stuff that you think. When you think of AI, it could watch everything I did and it would tell me, it would make adjustments for me and it would tell me these things. But there's very few companies that you would be willing to let in that far, to make those. And I think that Apple is the one that has built that level of connection with most of their users, where people might allow Apple to, see everything that they're doing in a way, knowing that it's all on device, it's all figuring that stuff out in a way that I don't know if they would let Google do, or definitely not a smaller company, because Google, you always look at it through the lens of they're here to get your information, like they're like that's their business, and so it's so I think that's a different relationship that people have. I think that's Apple's long term, but obviously the short term, again, I think it's the midterm that's the long term. I think Apple having private AI, on-device AI, and doing that better than anyone else is a huge advantage in the 3 to 5 years from now. Immediately, there's tons of stuff that we're already using. The midterm thing, I don't know if is figured out yet.
Yeah, it's increasingly. I've said for a while, Apple has this great advantage because everybody trusts them and privacy is their focus and so forth. I'm increasingly thinking that that's going to go really fast by the wayside once somebody comes up with an AI that is so good that people go, I don't care. I don't care. I have to have this.
I think that just like an iPhone has a signature design, any service that they provide is going to have a signature set of understandings around it, which is privacy and security. That Apple does not know and what you're doing on this device, and does not care what you're doing on this device. I do think that this advantage is going to weaken over time, because Google came up with a response last month to Apple's secure servers by saying, "Oh yeah, we've got something very, very similar to that. There's a lot of hardware on device. There's a lot of hardware on our servers. If for applications that want that kind of privacy and security, we can actually do that." But Jason, I think, really has it on point there. Every single time, if Apple has not been shipping lots and lots and lots of AI, Apple Intelligence features publicly on devices and on their operating systems, their AI department has been publishing a lot of papers. That's a good subscribe in our RSS feed, because they've been publishing a lot of papers, and most of them come down to, hey, yes, I know that the common wisdom is that you need a large, complicated server-based remote model in order to do this. We think that maybe you can do this on a smaller, simpler model that can be done on device. Just this week, I think it was just yesterday, they released 2 image generators, one for stills and one for video. That is, if you look at the specs, they're kind of laughable. I mean, we're talking about video 720p, 16 frames per second, maximum of 8 seconds. For stills, I think it was like 256 pixels square, which is not a lot, but they are making big deal. They're not making a big deal of, oh, this is going to replace Midjourney. They're saying, here is how efficiently all of these models can work like on a simple phone. And so every single time they announce something that they are proud of and they want to publish papers on, it's always about, we can do this on device. We don't necessarily need to send data into the cloud in order to deliver AI-based services. So that's going to be where Apple's AI focus is always going to be.
It's we live in an interesting times. We interviewed somebody, I think last week, on Intelligent Machines, our AI show, who was the guy who started Stable Diffusion, Stability AI. And his current project is to create these really small models for specific uses. He's got a medical model that he thinks will be better than your doctor, but it's a relatively tiny model. People who are not trying to do general AI,
Right.
are doing some very interesting stuff.
Right. And you can see
Unfortunately, what Apple wants is Siri. It wants a general AI.
It doesn't just want that, though. Like, when we talk about that thing they announced that they never shipped, the personal context concept, where there's data that personal data in a basically an index file on your storage on your local iPhone, and training a model that can understand and intuit from that personal data store what kind of queries it needs to make, how it works with iOS. Like, the custom models are a way forward for some of that, and custom models on the device, maybe even interacting with models that are not as custom that are off the device. There are places where Apple could do that. You're right. They also need to fix Siri, but they don't necessarily have to be the same thing or even the same model.
Apple Intelligence isn't just a chatbot that you can have conversations with and have very, very complex and wrong relationships with. It is also, hey, your notifications now make sense, and they're very, very simple, and they're very, very compact. And it's being able to say, hey, automate this process for me. I'm going to describe it to you just by describing it to you. And if you have any questions about what I mean, you're going to ask questions back to me, and we'll clarify it. But the thing is, after an 8-minute conversation, suddenly this task that takes me 90 minutes every other day is going to be done automatically in the background with you just simply sending me an iMessage that says, hey, here's the work I did for you. Do you want me to send this out? That's what Apple Intelligence on iPhones and iPads and Macs are going to be.
Well, we live in interesting times. Apple, in the press release, did the best they could to smooth it over by saying at the end, these leadership moves will help Apple continue to push the boundaries of what's possible. Okay.
PR.
Keep on keeping on. With Giannandrea's contributions as a foundation, kind of like the basement, Federighi's expanded oversight, and Subramania's deep expertise guiding the next generation of AI technologies from 16 years ago, Apple is poised to accelerate its work in delivering intelligent, trusted, and profoundly personal experiences. This moment marks an exciting new chapter as Apple strengthens its commitment to shaping the future for AI users everywhere.
A pure PR standpoint, I think it's really interesting that they framed this post. They did a post on the newsroom about it. Take that, Mark Gurman. And
yes, that's called getting ahead of the story.
And the headline is Giannandrea to retire.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, we hired this guy away from Microsoft who used to be at Google. Interesting choice. And again, I wonder if it goes to an understanding among the executives that they're going to give him the softest of landings and say he's retiring like other executives at Apple, and he's going to still be here until the spring, but we bring in this new person and this is how it's going to work. And like, they could have not mentioned him at all, disappeared him from their website and said we hired a new guy. But and maybe in the last line of that they go, and also John Giannandrea is retiring, so bye. Okay, we wish him well. That's not how it's phrased. And again, I have to think that that's for a reason, which is that there is some sort of a I mean, it's basically a negotiated exit for him in kind terms, because they could have axed him, right? Although, again, who knows if he had a contract with very specific, issues and options or whatever. But they're giving him a soft landing. I just think it's kind of funny that they focus on the old guy, not the new guy. But that's what they did.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have
story
to say,
goes on.
Apple's does not feel like it has a coherent, guiding light strategy in all of this. So
no, and if they do, we don't know about it. But certainly, the last year has not been encouraging.
Not
so
been
they've said, the reports are they have had a reset, and we'll see. But I think we would all agree that how Apple, a company with a very specific culture and way of dealing with things, reacts to the rise of AI, which has completely different. It's like encountering an alien.
yeah,
How those two things connect is fascinating, right? And it may be good, it may be bad. It's certainly weird. So great to talk about.
And I mean, we are experienced. We've been looking at this sort of stuff for a couple of decades. We're not starry-eyed about Apple, and yet none of us in this conversation, I don't think most people who are worth listening to in this world are thinking, "Oh my God, Apple's doomed. Apple, oh my God, if they don't, another failure with AI. When is Apple going to fix this? When is it going to? They're running on a runway, man." It's like, no, they're not running on a runway. They have room to maneuver. Nobody thinks this is anything more than tried this, didn't really work out. Tried that, we got closer, didn't really work out. We're doing a lot of good research. We are just never going to be so bold as to say, here are a bunch of 100% synthetic demos of what our AI features will look like once we actually get them working. We are just going to simply continue to put AI features in here and there when they are worth shipping. And at some point, thanks to the $1 billion a year we're paying Google, we do think that we will finally get a voice assistant that is the best it's ever been, which means it's better than mediocre.
I think with the failure of the car project, or the abandonment of the car project, the Vision Pro not looking so brilliant, and now this AI debacle, Apple, has it lost its mojo?
No. But I mean, the other story that maybe we'll get to is that the Counterpoint Research, which is a very good analyst firm, is saying that they think that Apple's going to surpass Samsung, not in the phone business, not just in revenue, but in actual shipments of units in 2026. And they think that they're going to be the leaders through 2029. And this long report, just point for point, says, here is why we think that Apple is absolutely on their A game with iPhones. They talk about markets in China. They talk about the 17 and the 17 Pro and how successful that's been. Which is not necessary. Which, from one point of view, is not terribly reassuring, because it says that the thing that has always made roughly half of Apple's money will continue to make half of Apple's money because they're selling it very, very well. But nonetheless, they haven't necessarily lost its mojo. It's just that they're just trying to learn a new set of steps that they are having trouble mastering.
They seem to be doing pretty well at the stuff that they are good at. The challenge is what. About other stuff.
And Google is doing pretty well with the AI stuff. For a long time, Google was good at AdWords and display ads. And that, if you've ever worked on any of the Google things, you realize there were those guys, and then there was everybody else. And as far as what when
that was the money tree.
The parties for the ad sales are really good. So anyway, so the like when you get the whales in there, they're at the Ritz,
Yeah.
So I think that there's I think that in a lot of times a company is very, very good at something, and then they're trying to leverage into the new things that they aren't as good at, and they're figuring it out.
The innovator's dilemma, right?
But they do have. I mean, Apple has an incredible amount of runway because of the iPhone. I don't think that they, for 5 years, they're probably going to keep on printing money No,
we've said this before. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta all have revenue streams outside of AI, so they don't have to perform in the same way that OpenAI and Anthropic do.
And the question is whether OpenAI and Anthropic end up getting absorbed by somebody because they just can't pay the bills.
Yeah. Ironically, OpenAI, though, has the customer base. So They do
but
have
can they?
because
Will
they
they?
made a
current
product.
advantage.
I think
But they have no way to monetize it right now.
right.
Well, they have, and again, they're charging you by some, but they could immediately start charging a lot more, and then suddenly have this huge drop off. Like that's the balance. Is
Yeah, there is no loyalty at this point.
everyone
It-
think? Yeah,
It is not like Google with search, where people are really, embedded into Google. Anybody could win at this point. And by the way, I should also say, I'll be the first to admit, I was saying Google lost its mojo 6 months ago. So,
well, and
mojo comes, mojo goes.
most
right?
of the aughts were talking about how Microsoft was going to go. Like this is their last hurrah, and that didn't turn out to be accurate.
Yeah.
And also let's point out that there's room for lots and lots of winners here. It's not a winner's podium. It is a mesa that lots and lots of people can figure out how to be successful in AI. Some of them will do it with very, very little, very, very small, intimate products. Some of it will be like Gemini, like Google does, by saying that we want to essentially be the corn syrup for services, where we will find if you want to make your product a little bit sweeter with AI, we will sell you in bulk and in train loads the substance you need to make your service or product or hardware more AI full. So there are lots of ways to win here.
All right, let's take a little break, and the winning will continue. Another company that I thought was down and out may not be down, and they certainly aren't out. Well, that's a tease. We'll
Discuss.
tell you what that is in just a moment. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Andy Iannacco, Alex Lindsay, and Jason Snell. So glad you're here, too. We appreciate it. Our show today brought to you by our good friends at OutSystems, the #1 AI-powered low-code development platform. This OutSystems has found a solution to the eternal question in business when it comes to software. Build it yourself or buy it off the shelf. And there's certainly pros and cons in each. But now there's a third way that gives you all the benefits of building it yourself without the downsides, and all the benefits of off the shelf, price-wise anyway. Organizations all over the world now are creating custom apps and AI agents, and they're doing it with OutSystems. It's the OutSystems platform that makes all the difference, because OutSystems is all about outcomes. Get it? Helping teams quickly deploy apps and AI agents and deliver results. And man, they have the success stories to prove it. Check out the website. They helped a top U.S. bank deploy an app for customers to open new accounts on any device. The results were very clear: 75% faster onboarding times. So, it's not just internal apps. It could also be customer-facing apps. Well, it also helps. If you're one of the world's largest brewers, you would know the name. OutSystems helped them deploy a solution to automate tasks and clear bottlenecks, save them 1 million development hours. Like that. They helped a global insurer. This is an internal system. They helped a global insurer accelerate development of a portal and app for their employees, which delivered a 360-degree view of customers and a way for insurance agents to grow policy sales. And it really worked. See, the OutSystems platform is truly a game changer for development teams. With AI-powered low code, that's the key here. You get low code, but you also get AI. So it's better than vibe coding. It's better than low code. It's something special. Teams can build custom, future-proof applications and AI agents just as fast as they'd buy something off the shelf. But it's not generic. It's tailored to your exact needs and specification. And thanks to OutSystems, you get all these features built in: fully automated architecture, security built in. That's job one, right? Integrations, data flow, permissions. Your homebrewed software never had all this stuff. It never had it so good. This is really the solution. With OutSystems, it's so easy to create your own purpose-built apps and agents. There's no need to consider off-the-shelf sameware software solutions again. OutSystems, #1 AI-powered low-code development platform. Learn more at outsystems.com/twit. Outsystems.com/twit. These guys have been doing it for a long time. They really know their stuff. Thank them so much for supporting MacBreak Weekly. It's interesting. Even MacBreak Weekly now are getting the AI companies involved. This is such an exciting time. I mean, you all have been covering tech for 20 years or more.
Definitely one of the fastest moving things.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to cover. And you know, the other thing, I'm sitting here, I go through every day, I go do beat check, a couple hours looking for stories. I was telling Lisa the other day, these are all AI stories. I can't put them all on intelligent machines. I have to.
Try writing a weekly Google podcast and saying, "Oh God, are we going to have 4 stories about AI again?" But sometimes it's all there is. And it is. I mean, it's such a fast moving target. I have a Google Gem, a Gemini Gem that does my copy editing for things I write. And the first time I ran it, I think under Gemini 3.0, and my God, it was so. As much as I liked it like a month ago, it is so much better now. It was catching things that it might have let go in the past, even though I didn't explicitly say. It followed the brief of the gem, which is you are just simply a hourly drudge worker. You are not here to rewrite. You're not here to be an editor. You're just here to flag like typos and grammatical errors. And it was giving so much better subtle comments.
It's gotten so much better.
Even when it's hard to keep up on. Even when you decided, hey, here's a product I like and use. Oh, well, actually they pushed out an update, and either it will destroy absolutely your entire workflow because its attitude is 100% different, or it will be, oh my goodness, it is so much better now.
So, guess who's according to Ming-Chi Kuo, making the processors for that new inexpensive Apple computer?
No, this is way out. This is a couple.
Oh, this is not next year.
This is not. No,
okay.
TSMC is making the A series processor because of last year's iPhone.
It's the phones. It's a phone chip. Okay, all right.
They're talking about the M7.
But Intel,
M8, yeah.
An old name returns. Yeah,
I have not heard that name in years.
A hand bursts out of the grave, clutches at the mud, and lifts himself out.
I'm not dead yet.
So actually,
Intel makes partly alive.
We were talking about this on Twit on Sunday with Daniel Rubino, who covers Windows. He says people have been writing off Intel, but their latest chips are actually pretty darn good. And for a laptop, they're kind of the king, at least in the PC size.
Keep in mind, this is going to be an Apple design chip. His rumor is that
they're going to be the fab.
They're going to be a fab for this, which is a thing that Intel resisted for a long time. But now it's very clear they're very proud of their designs and they make their own chips that they designed. But this would be an Apple M7 or something like that would be done by fabbed for them by Intel, and then presumably the M7 Pro and Max and Ultra. All of those more advanced chips would be on TSMC's processes instead. So Ming-Chi Kuo's note basically says this is not a super high volume product. It'd be in MacBook Air and the low end MacBook and some iPad Pros, and then a couple years later in an iPad Air. Right? We know the kind of way it trails off, but it's something that not only is something that Apple can afford to be on someone else's, not necessarily as cutting edge as TSMC's process, which is, Intel can do that. It also is an American company. Presumably it'll be fabbed in the US, so it's got a lot of political reasons why it's a good idea. It's a cover your bets reason, because it means you've got a second supplier in case something bad were to happen to TSMC. They've got Intel fabbing at least some chips for them. That's a good thing for them. And then, this, in general, what I've heard and what is reported by Ming-Chi Kuo is Intel's roadmap is pretty good. Intel is kind of turning it around and is not competitive with TSMC quite yet, but might be down the road. And this gives Apple a little bit of an investment that not only makes the Trump administration happy, but maybe furthers Intel's drive toward being a better rival to TSMC, and that would benefit Apple if it's got rivals for its business.
Yeah, it's an interesting peek into how much is Apple into this concept of USA manufacture to appease the current administration versus how much is this because Apple see in the current business and regulatory environment, they see an opportunity to pursue some ideas they've had for a while about USA manufacturing that just did not make financial sense before. Where if there is a cost to using exclusive Chinese manufacturer that is now making it necessary for Apple to make these kinds of outside bets on, like, Intel has it's a brand new process that Intel has. It is a 2 nanometer process. There's nothing in this in this reporting from Ming-Chi Kuo that suggests that they are looking to challenge TSMC as Apple's manufacturer. It's more like, can you build this? And what if we were to give you some very low stakes products in which to build the M series processors for, where if you fail to deliver on schedule, it won't totally ruin our quarter or our year. It's another interesting insight into Apple's motivations.
Ming-Chi Kuo is talking about Intel's 18A node, which I think is 18 angstroms, which he says is comparable to the N3 family at TSMC. Of course, TSMC has moved on to an N2 node, 2 nanometer, but that means you've got to, if it's all true, you've got a chip that's comparable to the current Apple silicon.
I think you also, with the saber rattling that happens in China, you have to figure out where else we make
it's
chips.
strategic.
We have to, because it takes years for this to mature. So you have to plant the tree right now, and how much of that fruit you use, you'll figure it out later. But you got to plant the tree now because you don't want to be out without any fruit at all. And I think that it feels almost inevitable that China at some point will make some sort of play for Taiwan, and having everything there. That's why TSMC has to build something outside of the United States.
Which they are in Arizona.
Which they are.
Right?
So there's a bunch of, like, everybody's kind of spreading out slowly, to make sure that they can manage that impact. But you have all the other challenges. I mean, I think we have something coming up of, you move into India, and then India has all kinds of crazy ideas. So then you have a whole new set of problems.
Yeah, Apple's relationship with India seems to be going a little south. It's going a little sideways. India has told Apple, you must put our state-run security app on your phone, and Apple has said no, according to Reuters. So maybe the India-Apple relationship is not
like, hey, I don't think India announced that they wanted to do this. I think that they quietly asked Apple, like, hey, this is what we want you to do, and Apple was like, no, and suddenly
they made this announcement that everybody, Google and Apple, anyone who ships iPhones has to comply with this within 90 days. It involves all brand new phones that ship in India have to have this app pre-installed, and that it cannot be removed by the user. Any existing phones must have this app pushed to the phone, with also the same requirements that this cannot be removed by the user. Outwardly, it is an app that says, oh, well, we just want to have an app so that when people lose their phones, and if they're stolen, they can report them as stolen. And but it's getting access to your entire call history. It's getting access to photos. It's getting access to.
That's incredible. I've never. I don't know if that's the most draconian thing I've seen, but it's,
Indian government. This is from Reuters. Has confidentially ordered companies, including Apple, Samsung, and Xiaomi, to preload their phones with an app called Sanchar Sati, or communication partner, within 90 days. The app is intended to track stolen phones. Of course, you could probably track
other things too.
Apple has ways of doing this.
Yeah, block them and prevent them from being misused. India's telecom ministry said it's a security measure to combat serious endangerment of cybersecurity. But of course, Prime Minister Modi's opponents and privacy advocates say it's a way for the government to gain access to these 730 million smartphones in the country. The government wants manufacturers to ensure the app is not disabled, and for devices already in the supply chain. So this is not just new iPhones. Manufacturers would be expected to push the app to phones via software update. Apple has told the Indian government does not plan to comply with the directive. It doesn't follow such mandates anywhere in the world, it says.
In Russia, before they abandoned Russia, they agreed to, we will put up a screen that lets you download these 4 apps the Russian government wants you to have
process,
from the App Store, but it was very much like sort of, we'll let them be in the App Store and we'll put up a screen that says you should download it. But that was as far as they were willing to go. And in order to keep Apple for the moment in their region, the Russian government said, okay, that we'll do that. And Apple, of course, is not in Russia anymore. But in India, it's the same thing. It's sort of like it's a negotiating point. I heard from somebody in India who said you also have to give your ID to get a SIM card, and that's logged. So
there's
they have
no burner phones in India.
Yeah, they have all the ways to track you, and yes, it does feel a little like a pretense here, doesn't it? Because I would bet you that Apple does all of the things that they claim this system will do, and does them already, and does them better. But so I don't know.
We know what Apple's leverage is in this. Of course, they're building factories in India. They're proposing making a lot of phones, maybe almost all of the new phones in India. So that's a big revenue for India. But we also know what India's leverage is. Apple's in the court with the Indian government right now over their antitrust laws, and the fine could be up to $38 billion. So there's leverage on both sides here. I don't know if India is more important to Apple than Apple is to India. I don't know who's got the upper hand.
Yeah, I've been trying to. I wrote some notes on this, like before, during the period after which this news broke, but before the Reuters story, which cites three anonymous sources that Apple does not intend to comply with this. And I was trying to figure out, like, how will Apple respond to this? And I couldn't really figure out what they would do, because on some level, as Jason said, they have done vaguely similar things in the past, and where would their point of disagreement be? Like, why are they would they be taking a stand on this app being pre-installed when it's sketchy and shady, but is not known to be but it's not an active surveillance tool right now. That's not on the surface right now. It is simply an app that can definitely be deployed and exploited that way. How is that different than complying with a demand to not allow VPN apps on the App Store? I mean, it's easy to flip a switch on the App Store. That's the difference between that and basically force loading a new app on all devices. But it's I'm sorry, I'm babbling here. It's because this.
So let me interrupt. Then
I'm still trying to figure out what Apple's perception of this app is, and why they would draw a line where they might not draw a line on other attempts of a government to intrude upon the security and the privacy of an iPhone user in their country.
Reuters quotes one of its three sources at Apple saying, "It's not only like taking a sledgehammer. This is like a double-barrel gun." I don't know. I don't even know what that means, to be honest with you, but it's in the story, so I'm going to read it.
I mean, most of the countries don't have the luxury of having the NSA. Like the NSA is a much more developed system that
we don't need to do this because
80 or 90. Yeah. No, but not. It doesn't not like the NSA probably looks at this going, "Well, that'd make it a lot easier, wouldn't it?" Like you have to do this.
Yeah, but if you have people in the wire closets of all of the main cell phone carriers, you don't really need to do this.
The NSA probably gets 80% of what this would provide, but this potentially, again, access to photos, access to all your texts, access to
any app that's on there that you can't disable and you can't unload.
It's incredible intrusion. Like
if you've ever wondered why every gosh darn thing you buy has an app, now you know. You can't use your vacuum cleaner without an app.
Right. And
there's a good reason. They want to be on your phone. There's a lot of stuff they can do on your phone. They can see on your phone. Well, anyway, this will be another. This is maybe, if I were Tim Cook, that retirement's starting to look really good.
This is a.
I don't want to deal with this too.
This is almost like saying, if you could go back in time to China, would you do anything different? Because you've got a democracy, but one that is increasingly authoritarian. But also, you got to say it, India's potential growth over the next 30 years is enormous. It may become
750 million phones.
Yeah, it may become the world's largest economy by mid-century or not long after. Like it's a huge growth opportunity for Apple, but they have to navigate this. And do they go? I mean, Apple has done a lot of things for the Chinese government, and done linkages to Chinese government approved things that are not on American phones or phones elsewhere in the world, and they just kind of like flip it around. And so we'll have to see. But this is, I would almost say this feels amateurish by the Indian government. Like this is the kind of thing that Russia pulls. And is there not I would think a more substantive relationship they could build with Apple that will get them some of what they want, because I think that Apple has shown that they will do what you want, but that this is like too much. Plus some of those, that double-barreled shotgun or whatever, like some of it also strikes me as being like maybe not technically viable. Like they've got somebody who just whipped up an app and they're like, put my nephew's app on your phone now, please. Yeah. And that may not be the best way to approach this, even from that standpoint.
Yeah. I wonder if the government actually had conversations with Google and Apple to say, here's what we plan to do, here's when we expect you to implement it, or if they just simply just dropped the bomb and said, by the way, you're finding out about this along with the world's press and all of our users. It's hard to imagine that they would make a request that's this sweeping without at least preparing the ground a little bit, and not that they're not in a position where they can simply create a demand by fiat and expect a company like Apple or Google to simply comply with it and maybe not even be able to comply with it within 90 days.
I mean, 90 days seems like a pretty big push to be pushing things out with updates and so on and so forth. But, they have, I mean, their website does the Sanchar Sathi website, definitely sells the idea that we're here to protect you from scams and from your theft and loss. So it's not like they are trying to, the web portal is definitely selling the idea that it's for their citizens' safety.
Yeah, exactly. So. And that's the super sketchy thing where it's like, okay, but why are you making it impossible for me to remove this app that supposedly is just here for me to be able to report stolen things?
Because you don't know what's good for you, Andy. This is the problem, is that
you'd only screw it up. Actually, Apple should be all over that. That's like, hey, compadre, brother, my sister.
You see how this goes. I don't know if you guys are watching.
Users are idiots.
I don't know if you guys are watching the American Revolution, with...
I love it.
It's such a page turner. It's just like, I mean...
What's going to happen next? Will they get their independence? Will the British win?
I know, we already know what's going to happen. It's like the Titanic, but the build up to it, it's like...
It's really good.
Well, and all the contextual stuff, that is, like... The English realized that the colonialists and the Indians should be separated. So they said you can't go past the appellation, and then everyone's upset, and so you can't tell us what to do. And so it's a fascinating thing to see that this happens over and over again. Where
Paris did point out one thing, though. She said it really should have been a podcast because there's no pictures. It's just kind of, you could listen to it and you wouldn't miss a whole lot.
I feel like this is where AI is going to come in at some point. All of those photos. I watching it. I was tempted to digitize it and then just spend an afternoon in VO or in Kling.
That
something
Ken Burns would never do that. Though.
He would never do that. But imagine how great it would be if he did. Like, like it would be just this.
I could feel how tempted he is to do reenactments and stuff like the Discovery Channel and the History Channel do. Yeah. Where you're watching it, it's like, this is all fake footage. But he's fortunately mostly avoiding that temptation. Yeah. There are a few shots of a shadowy rider going through the night on a horse, apparently hellbound for somewhere. But, other than that, it's pretty good. Yeah. I'm really enjoying it.
He gave an interview to GQ about the series in which he talked about like how Steve Jobs talked him into allowing iMovie to have, quote, the Ken Burns effect, unquote.
He sued him at first. He was pissed.
He was like, I'm not going to endorse this product. And basically it was like, okay, well, how about you give me $1 million worth of hardware?
Yeah.
It's not too bad, is it? Yeah, okay.
All right, I think we could take a break. I'm so tempted once we started talking about TV to start talking about Pluribus, but I'm going to avoid that. Save that for later. You're watching MacBreak Weekly with Andy Anatko in the library and working hard, apparently.
Yes.
on things.
It's the last.
I love it. I'm just teasing you.
The proverbial duck. He looks calm on the surface, but he is furiously paddling underneath.
Ask what I did the day after Thanksgiving. Don't, because I'll go off on an unhinged rant.
Okay. Maybe later in the show. Also, Jason Snell, who had, I'm sure, a lovely turkey day.
Yeah, it was delightful. Big family gathering.
Good. Yeah. It was nice. I cooked for 4, but I still made a whole big turkey and everything. But it was fun.
Yeah, you had leftovers.
Pressure.
That's fine.
Yeah, we still have a lot of leftovers.
12 or 13, but I only had to make a side because we were visiting somebody else.
Oh,
which is nice to take a Thanksgiving off from having to be the turkey.
Alex,
chef.
did you have people in?
My wife's parents came, and my mother-in-law is from Louisiana, so the food is.
Oh, did you have some Cajun? You had a Cajun Thanksgiving.
A lot of good food there. But I do the turkey now, so I do the sous vide. We don't even get the whole turkey anymore.
Do you spatchcock it? Oh, you just get a breast.
I just get the turkey breasts and cut them. Put them into the sous vide, and they're just. It's so much better.
I was tempted. I must
it's
say.
just so much more tender. Like I think I used to hate turkey. I was like, oh my god,
yes,
turkey.
It's hard to do right.
Dry and grainy and everything else. And now it's like great every time. I didn't have any flake salt, so I used gray salt, which made it even better by accident. And I put the trick is the one piece of rosemary in with your turkey or chicken. It's there's something about it that just
gives that a little.
I wrap it with a few sprigs of rosemary, dry brine it, and it's like it's. We're not going to go into it. We need to go into a break, but it's like you cannot mention this without saying that like soup. There's so many kinds of food that I did not realize that I could actually enjoyed. That the problem was that it was never cooked properly when I was a child. Like, wow, pork can actually be succulent and juicy. Like, wow, turkey can actually be flavorful and juicy all the way through. Wow,
birds at 145 degrees is an entirely different world. Like it's just an entirely different. Like once you get used to that, it's hard to even order at a restaurant. Like it's just like I want to go there.
We'll have more in just a moment. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. This portion of MacBreak Weekly brought to you by a name I know you know, 1Password. It's easy to assume, bear with me here on this, that being small means you're flying under the radar, right? The truth is small businesses, like mine, are being targeted more and more by bad actors. Cyber criminals know lean teams often lack the resources to prevent or respond to a breach. In short, the bad news is teams of any size can be a target. The good news is even the smallest teams can foil cybercrime. And it doesn't take Batman. No, it takes 1Password. 1Password provides simple security to help small teams manage the number one risk that bad actors exploit, which is weak passwords. 1Password provides centralized management to make sure your company's logins are secure. It's a simple turnkey solution. You can roll it out in hours, whether you have a dedicated IT staff or not. And however complex your security needs may get, 1Password will stay with you every step of the way. A password manager should be the first security purchase you make for your team. Small businesses need to plan for the worst case scenario, and the guard against cyber attacks from the beginning is so important because it's a lot easier to stop them than it is to fix them once they get in. For small teams, responsibility for security often lies on the shoulders of a single employee. It does with ours, who's already doing other things. It does. That's right. The most effective security solutions will need to be intuitive and user-friendly so that everyone in your company can use it and will use it. 1Password's Enterprise Password Manager helps your company eliminate security headaches and improve security by identifying weak and compromised passwords and replacing them with strong, unique credentials. Don't let 1Password's name fool you. They're not just a password manager. 1Password EPM lets you securely store and share developer secrets and other sensitive data and helps streamline the transition to passwordless authentication with a transition to passkeys, which I think it's time, right? With 1Password's EPM's simple automated workflows, your team can enforce security compliance and prevent breaches, potentially preventing millions of dollars in losses. It's the single most impactful investment you can make in your company's security. Take the first step to better security by securing your team's credentials. Find out more at onepassword.com/MacBreak and start securing every login. That's onepassword.com/MacBreak. It's always been a back and forth battle between Apple and Samsung as to who the biggest smartphone maker is. Samsung's been kind of on top for more than a decade. Now, according to Bloomberg, the iPhone 17 has been such a hit, not just in the U.S., but in China, giving them double-digit year-over-year sales growth. They are expected to become and remain the number one phone maker in the world, finally beating Samsung for the first time in a decade. This is according to Counterpoint Research.
And I know we keep coming back to it, but I think a big piece of that puzzle comes down to this lock that they have on the sub 18-year-old, because they keep on showing up in the workforce. They keep on getting older and coming into it, and that lock, I think, is starting to fade a little bit. I think it's starting to diffuse, but when you start seeing 85% of kids under 18 in the United States using one platform, that bulge is going to keep moving forward, and moving, and the chances of someone getting something new at that, after 2 or 3 years of either phone becomes, pretty low, so I think I think that bulge is definitely going to keep paying off, at least for the next 4 or 5 years.
It's definitely going to help them maintain consistency. The fact matter is, though, that internationally, worldwide, the iPhone is still not in any way like a majority platform. They can't make enough types of phones. They can't make the enough price range of phones so that they can get the young people throughout the entire world.
That's when you include all the Android phones, though, the entire Android base. Yeah.
But remember that every time someone opens up an Android phone, it starts sending data to Google. That benefits Google very, very, very grateful.
And Apple not. I still think that Apple not having a total lock is good for Apple.
Sure.
It definitely weakens the case.
They can make an argument against all that government regulation.
So I think the situation, if Google had never created Android, Apple would be in a much uglier situation right now.
Apple's, according to Counterpoint,
much higher.
Apple's market share is projected to be 19.4%. So it's not even close to a majority in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
But it is the number one manufacturer. Samsung's been growing slower than Apple.
If you want an iPhone, you have to go to Apple for it.
Right.
Whereas if you want an Android phone, take your pick. Yeah.
Right.
But it's a really interesting and good report. It says a lot of things about how successful Apple, to Alex's point, how successful Apple has been to marketing iPhones to young people in China for what's the holiday, the Singles Day holiday, and other basically targeted marketing campaigns that have acknowledged that after a year and a half, 2 years in which every single analyst call had at least a couple of questions from analysts during the Q&A about, we're still looking at those numbers in China and we're wondering when you're going to fix that, because the growth is pretty much flat and not really happening. And they definitely seem to have turned that around. It's an interesting report. It's not, the story is not simply that Apple happened to have had a good quarter with the iPhone 17. They are very, very much bullish on iPhone in general for the foreseeable future, which is great news.
Yeah. So good news. Congratulations to Apple.
Apple's not going to go out of business. Okay.
Woo. Maybe they haven't lost their mojo, as that stupid Leo said.
Their mojo, let's be honest, more than 50% of their mojo is the iPhone.
Yes,
and they keep selling iPhones. And that's I know Alex always talks about this when we talk about AI, that you can do lots of great AI stuff on an iPhone. It doesn't have to be from Apple. And they've gotten away with it. And I think they're going to continue getting away with it for a while. And so they've got an opportunity to get the rest of the new stuff that they're working on to be better, because they have so much momentum as a company that sells phones to people all over the world.
Are Apple ads and Apple Maps big enough to be subjected to the EU's Digital Markets Act? The EU thinks maybe. Possibly so. The App Store, iOS, and Safari were all designated core platform services under the DMA 2 years ago. Now, the European Commission has notified Apple that Apple Ads and Apple Apps meet the two thresholds to be considered gatekeepers. This is important because that means they are much more heavily regulated under the DMA than they would be. You are a gatekeeper if you have more than 45 million monthly active users and revenue or market capitalization, of 79 billion. That's how big Apple is, that even, Maps has that kind of
45 million monthly active end users and 10,000 yearly business users in each of the last 3 financial years. This is according to the Digital Markets Act.ec.europa.eu. They posted on November 27th about this, basically saying that the process is that they told Apple that, we think that maybe these two services fall under the Digital Markets Act. Apple, as part of the process, can say, no, it isn't. And so now
that's what they're saying.
Now they have 45 days to figure out whether or not Apple has a point.
Apple says the Apple Ads isn't a large player in the online advertising services. We've got minimum market share compared to Google, Meta, Microsoft, TikTok, or X. And it doesn't use data from other Apple services or third-party services. Maps has very limited usage in the EU. What are you talking about, Your Honor? So
it seems like this was just a pro forma sort of thing. Not that I'm a master of EU law, but it seems as though once a platform meets these 3 goalposts, it triggers us basically asking, "Hey, does this fall under the thing?" And it's who knows?
Yeah. All right. Somebody's saying the new Apple commercial made him cry. I
think cry is a big word. I found it to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Like, I found
what I liked? It's not
say.
AI, like every other gosh darn Christmas commercials.
It's not even CG. It's not even stop motion. It's like
real
actual
puppets.
puppets.
I found it to be unhinged. Like I think
it is
that
a little unhinged.
You were like,
look at that raccoon. That's unhinged.
Someone who works in production, you're always like, what was the pitch for this? Like, who thought? It's a funny ad. The whole thing. I don't know about the short one. I've never seen the short one. The 2.5 minute one is fine.
Right. It is a little change for Apple because in the past their Christmas ads, the holiday ads have always been tear jerkers, right? Or like the kid
now
who's
the other
off
thing
in
remember
the
is
corner making a movie and you think he's a nerd and then he makes everybody happy with the movie he made, that kind of thing.
I mean, this one also is all shot with, it's another showcase of shot with the iPhone. So they
does it say that
the
at
whole
the end?
thing in the behind the scenes? You see it. They did the whole production. So I think that Apple keeps selling the shot with the iPhone thing, and there really is, I think that's one of the things that's been separating it, and I think it's a problem for Samsung, is that Apple is making it clear to creators that I think that's what the message is for creators is like, hey, you can do a lot of good stuff on your iPhone, and Samsung has some very specific deficiencies that makes it hard to be a creator with the Samsung phone, which is that they don't save good files. They have a great camera, but the video files are trash. so and I say that as someone who had to shoot a bunch of stuff on a Samsung phone, that's the challenge is that and so I think Apple keeps doubling down on this process of if you really, I mean, most people are never going to do that with their phone, but it's the kind of like the aspirational, like, well, someday I may do that. The reality is that if you want to shoot that kind of footage on your phone, if you watch the behind the scenes, or if anyone's ever done it, you're putting a hard drive connected to your phone, and then you're putting in a rig, and then you're putting all this stuff on it, and it seems like it's a little overkill, but it does. There's a lot of aspirational process, and the reality is regardless of how good the camera is, the phone is a better production device than any other phone out there right now.
I do wonder though, like every time I see this, it's like it will never cease to be impressive that this quality of video can come out of an iPhone, not just to a layperson looking at, oh, okay, it looks like really good video, but an actual someone who's very, very well versed in production like you, who can see, no, it's not just that, but it's also the technical requirements of what the file has to do and what it has to be. But there's always that little specter lurking in the background saying, yeah, but look at everything we had to basically encase it in more hardware than RoboCop to make this into like why I'm not saying that they're being shifty about this, but I'm saying if they're trying to make this really good argument that there are a lot of creators that are not necessarily ready to step up to a $1,500 dedicated camera just yet, but here's what you can do with just the iPhone that you were going to buy anyway, plus let's say a couple $100 in sound and lighting. Here's how good this stuff is going to be, and how great it dumps into Final Cut Pro. That's the sort of messaging that I think that this misses out on.
I just think that sometimes it's saying that this can be used, and look at what this is what you can get done. Now, I will say also, as someone who just carries around an iPhone 17 or whatever and shoots, my wife with a 13 doesn't even bother to take her phone out. Like, she's just like, okay, you shoot this, because it's just because it's, it has progressed from it's really where Apple really took the ground is 15, 16, 17. Each one of those is, from a production perspective, is making huge, production improvements towards a full on, like, this is a production unit, that we're doing. And I think part of that's also driven from the fact that they're doing these commercials and their keynotes and everything else. So you have the production teams going back and forth going, hey, why don't I have this? Why don't I have and so I think that the dog fooding has helped a lot as well. But I do think that, most of the tools that they're using are not, the lenses are very expensive, but most of the other stuff, the B-script, a lot of that stuff is not particularly expensive, that they're using to build up a lot of these things. And so, but I'm amazed on a regular basis on what I'm shooting with the 17, especially the stabilization stuff that they do at like 8X or whatever. It's not, I don't understand how that works.
Is it? And I also find it kind of weird that I know they know who they're selling to. So obviously the video needs to be very, very important. But every time I do side by side, like even like the latest iPhone versus the latest like Pixel phone and the latest like Samsung Galaxy phone, the pictures are still like, it will depend on the situation, and the iPhone will never be a clear winner as they once used to be. Like, no, I can always tell which one was shot with the iPhone.
I don't think the iPhone has been a clear winner for a decade. Like from a still perspective, I think that it's never been like you could decide, some people will say this or some people will say that. I think really where the iPhone distinguishes itself is in video, and a lot of it has to do with when they started recording ProRes. It kind of just created a different level. And now that you have, again, the stuff that some folks are making, if you look at like what Radiant is doing with Radiant Images has like 30 iPhones connected with Genlock and doing Gaussian splats of people doing stuff. They're really kind of pushing that outer edge. So that's the kind of stuff that I think is really interesting. But yeah, I agree with you that I don't think the phone stills have been better than, I've had friends with Samsung phones. I've had a bunch of Samsung phones. I think it's, pretty close most of the time, and oftentimes leaning towards the Samsung as far as clarity goes, resolution. But I think it's, for most Apple users, it's good enough. For me, it's good enough, I will say.
Yeah, at a certain point, it comes down to do you like the color grading on this? Do you like the choices that on a technical level, the lens is as good as it's going to get. The sensors are going to be as good as it's going to get. The pipeline is pretty much as good as it's going to get. Do you like the choices that the iPhone made versus the choices that the Samsung made versus the choices that the Pixel made?
And fundamentally, as someone who's recording stuff, like actually recording video, it's not close. Like, it's not close.
Oh, no, absolutely.
So if you're and when I keep on coming back to creators, unless you're doing Instagram or whatever, even if you're doing Instagram, if you want to capture footage that you can actually edit well and do any kind of color correction or anything else, you really don't have a choice if you're going to do it with a mobile device. It's the iPhone is the only way to go.
Well, another winner in this ad is the Flight of the Conchords, because it's the song they're singing is a 10-year-old song from I thought
Brett and Jermaine,
I love Jermaine, who of course later did What We Do in the Shadows, but
they're about to get a tasty $18.34 check from the streaming service for the popularity of this phone.
It'll be bigger than that. I have a feeling.
I'm sure Apple paid them
I know,
a lot.
They licensed it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
They peeled a couple bills off the outside edge.
It's fun. It's a you can go on YouTube and watch the original, and you can see that the text, the lines of the song are a little bit different.
Yeah,
but it is Flight of the Conchords, which you can. I think it's still on HBO Max. It's an old HBO show. It is a very funny show about musicians, but like it's zany and kind of a way that the energy in this ad, to me, it felt a little Muppety, right? Like these are kind of like wild puppet creatures, and then the song is also from Flight of the Conchords. They're also kind of weird and wacky, and you put it all together, like it's really smartly done. And yeah, I love that they pointed out that this is all hand built puppets. And the behind the scenes video is pretty cool. Yes, it is an ad for the iPhone. Of course it is. It always is, but it's a fun ad. I appreciate that they gave work to puppeteers, and the puppeteers are characters themselves, as you will see in the behind the scenes video. It's really good.
I will say that the Apple is definitely pushing really hard, pushing down on the made by humans. Some of their stuff is saying at the end, made by humans, made by humans.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
This is the legacy of that Crush ad, I think.
Yeah, and I think that but I think that that's it's also a play towards the creators, whoever the filmmakers are. That hey, this is if you want someone who really cares about filmmaking and not trying to replace you with AI. So even though they're taking the advantage of the fact that they're a little behind on the AI thing, to going, well, we're not doing AI for our content.
We're humans. Yeah. Speaking of music, the music replay is out on your Apple Music. The number one Apple Music song this year was Apt. Is that short for apartment? I'm so out of it. Rosé and Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars is all over this.
Yeah. Most popular song, I guess, by plays. Not that Apple's paying any attention to what you're playing. Or are they? They have to be.
That's how they
pay them. Okay.
Yeah.
Luther by Kendrick Lamar.
They've got all your algorithms and all of that, and then they build these things, and they'll never be Spotify Unwrapped, but that's okay.
That's also out, right? It's that most wonderful time of the year.
It's where it's 11 months and we round up the year.
Die with a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, and Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish. Apt is also the most Shazammed song of the year. Like, what's this? What is this song? What is this? It sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's interesting that again, Billie Eilish is on the list. Lady Gaga is on the list. All these people that are just basically consistently at the top of music lists for the past 5-10 years. How difficult is it to really break out on this platform?
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know what it is. My Apple Music is spinning, so I can't show you my most popular songs.
Mine's very eclectic.
Mine is not good because I play it during massage sessions. So there's a lot of massage music.
I have a couple of playlists that I play whenever I'm writing. It's my get focused, and so and it's one artist or two artists, I guess, and so that artist is always like my most played artist of the year.
Exactly.
And it's funny, they also know the one that I really like is you're one of the top 100 listeners to this artist.
Yeah,
and I play those songs so much.
Nice.
It's literally
where's
because
the gratitude?
When I'm writing, shout out to Bob Mould. When I'm writing, I have a Bob Mould playlist that I do, Bob Mould and Sugar and Husker Du, because because I know it by heart. There are a couple others that I use sometimes because I know it by heart. I'm not listening to the lyrics. I'm just getting in a mode and all of that. But so that's in there, eclipsing kind of all the other stuff that I'm listening to. But I don't mind it. It correctly figured out my song of the year, which is Rockman by MKG. Very nice song. Sounds like a Lost Police song. That is my song of the year. So.
Is that on your writing playlist? I'm thinking it must be.
It's not. Well, it's not because I like it. I like it too much, and it is on my best of the year playlist, and I do play that when I'm writing too. So yes,
I'm just always surprised that I was like, are these really because for me it was like Isha is number one, which I didn't expect when I went to see her with my daughter. Flip Turn, The Smiths, which is obvious. Then Jorge Benjor, which is just one song that I like to listen to a lot. It makes me happy. And Pearl Jam, the Oh Hellos, which I just saw.
Oh yeah, you gave them a nice big plug on the show.
They were great. Rush is number 7, which would be another obvious one.
As it should be.
Yeah, they were my number one November band because I listened to a Rush playlist when I was traveling.
And then Fleetwood Mac is number 8. Noah Kahn being number 9, which is and then rounding it out at number 10, Toad the Wet Sprocket.
There you
Of
go.
course.
Has to be in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta be in there. I'm not trying to hide my music preferences. I literally, it's just spinning. So I don't know. I just don't know.
But I'm with Jason. Like, you just reminded me that, like, every time that a service does this, I have both Spotify and Apple Music. I kind of wish that they would understand that. Oh, well, he actually just like plays there. I wish that it could separate out that, okay, this 4-hour opera recording is one of his favorite operas, and he tends to like put it on because when he needs to do 4 hours of house cleaning, he enjoys the music, but. Like, so don't say that, oh, you're by far you listen to lots of Donizetti and and Diana Damrau. I was like, no, that's because I'm sure that by hours, you got it spot on. But like, don't you understand that, like,
No.
if I listen to a 2.5-minute song, if I listen to like a 2.5-minute song by a certain artist over and over again, and like a companion one from that album, that maybe should be weighted almost as big as the 4 hours that I spent listening to this opera out of habit.
It's nothing, Andrew. Nothing. Let's take a little break. More to come. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Andy, Alex, and Jason. Our show today brought to you by ZocDoc. Working out. Big fan. I'm a big fan. It's a great way to take care of your body, but getting truly healthy takes more than hitting the gym. It takes consistent annual checkups with your doctor, getting things checked out that feel off or not normal. It takes a quality nutrition regimen, taking care of your mental health, although that's very important. And ZocDoc makes it easy to start your health plan by helping you find and book doctors in your area who are right for you. It's quick and easy, and I love it. ZocDoc is a free app or website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. With ZocDoc, you can book in-network appointments with more than 100,000 doctors, not just MDs, but in every specialty: mental health, dental health, primary care, urgent care, and more. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, doctors who are located nearby, doctors who are a good fit for any medical need you may have. And this is my favorite part, are highly rated by verified patients. The reviews are what make ZocDoc so great for me, because I can read these verified patient reviews and really get a sense of what that provider is like, whether they're going to be, the type of person I want to go to. You can also filter on specific preferences. Maybe you want a male doctor or a female doctor. Maybe you want a doctor that speaks a specific language. Maybe you want a doctor that's availability fits with your work schedule or has an opening in the next day, or on and on. They really let you drill down to find exactly what you need. And once you find that right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings, choose a time slot that works for you, and click to instantly book a visit. Appointments through ZocDoc happen fast, typically within 72 hours of a booking, even faster in many cases. More often than not, you can get same-day appointments. I use it, and you should too. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. We thank him so much for supporting MacBreak Weekly. I don't know if this is cause for concern. This is from 9 to 5 Mac, a well-known security researcher, Csaba Fitzel, is a principal Mac security researcher at IRU, says that Apple has slashed its bounties for finding vulnerabilities. Many have been halved. Apple's famous for a long time resisting bug bounties. But I think everybody, down to our own security guru, Steve Gibson, agrees that's the best way to get fixes, because if you don't pay for it, others will, especially when it comes to iPhones. Csaba says that some of them have been reduced from $30,000 to just $5,000.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Now, this is for the Mac only, not for the iPhone. But I think that this is something to be aware of and perhaps cause for concern.
You think maybe they just think that the Mac is just such a low attack surface that they can afford to cheap out on it? Or have they been paying out less and less money simply because fewer and fewer bugs have been discovered?
Oh yeah, Tahoe's perfect.
Yeah,
I mean, times are tight, Andy. I mean, they have to really.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is like, it's
The debate on bug bounties is there are some people, moralists, I think, who say, you don't want to pay people to find bugs. You do, because there are other people who will pay people to find bugs, and companies that have perhaps not the best ethics, companies that will sell those bugs to nation states or bad guys. And because they're valuable for a lot of money. So Apple needs to compete with those companies. Apple needs to offer big bug bounties. That's what most other companies do. And I don't know why
it is a line of work. When bug bounties were first proposed, they were more like, "Oh, thank you so much for finding this bug and for being a good citizen of the platform. And as a thank you gift, we're going to give you this amount of money, which is not commensurate to how much you saved our bacon, but reflects our gratitude to you for doing work for free that we seem to have overlooked in this one specific case." And in the meantime, it has become, look, it takes effort. It takes hours and hours of work and a special kind of expertise that took decades to form in order to find these bugs in the first place. And they should be paid for the effort that they put in, especially given like how absolutely Beschmirckled Apple is if these bugs are allowed to remain in the wild. So it's concerning.
I'm sorry for derailing it, but I'm kind of Beschmirckled.
I was about to say instinctively I was about to say a very rude word. I said no, I shouldn't say that. So what if I say this word and it says that, ooh, that's almost as rude as that word?
Is that a real word?
And then I had to simply move forward. I used my creativity as a communications professional to invent a word that does not exist. But
on the fly, he invented that word.
No off position.
It's a good word. It's a good word to be
Beschmirckled. How do you spell that, Andy? Just in case we wanted to use it as a title.
Beschmirckled. Beschmirckled.
Are you making that up too?
Yeah, that is obviously I would know.
I didn't get the CK. I would have. I didn't. I thought
I missed the CK.
You forget that I actually wrote a Random House dictionary of technical and internet slang.
Did not forget that. That's a great. I still have that book somewhere.
Is that available still on the market?
No, it's long out of print. But I did basically I snuck in a whole bunch of words that I like to use that I pretty much made up, so that if Jason or anybody else at Mac User or Mac World is saying that's not a word, it's in a Random House dictionary, definitive.
You snuck words into a Random House dictionary?
No, I didn't.
It's a book of
I
tech
discovered
terms, yes.
I discovered words.
Is this the book Cyberspeak?
Yes.
An online dictionary?
Yes.
I can buy it used for $10.10.
I do have that somewhere. Yeah.
I might get this. I had no idea, Andy. 1996.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were just a young man then. The mutton shops only went halfway down.
Yeah. And it was hard because MIT Press had the Hacker's Dictionary, which has like left me in a bind because it's like I can't just simply it's a good resource for these sort of words, but I can't just simply cut and paste things from the Hacker's Dictionary. So I'm basically spending all my time online looking for words I did not know yet. And so
wait, I just want to make sure we get this right. Beschmirckled.
LED.
And is that in the Cyberspeak dictionary?
No, if there's an updated edition, though, you'll definitely.
ELLED.
ELED.
Beschmirckled.
Mirckled.
Beschmirckled. How is that? Beschmirckled or Beschmirk?
Oh,
Beschmirckled.
Beschmirckled.
I'm gonna write it.
It has a Dutch origin, I believe. It's originally from the Dutch Beschmirckled, and I think it sounds perfectly good. I'm going to get the hardcover of Cyberspeak online dictionary. You know what? I think we should have little readings from this from now on. There is an interesting uniformity in the price. It seems to be $10.10 almost everywhere.
Algorithms, man. It's like didn't there used to be like a flaw in all these like automated like price listing tools that secondhand booksellers were using, where they would just simply, like, by virtue of the fact that they would increase the price by 1 penny or something to differentiate, and eventually a book that nobody wanted that should cost $6 was suddenly listed for $38,000 because algorithms kept essentially outbidding each other for like what the price should be.
Wait a minute. Now this just in, there is a review of this.
Slightly out of date. Does not mention AI at all.
From Sean Burke, gives it 1 star in 1999 and says blah. So I don't know. Maybe I should not buy it.
No, see, this is why I'm averse to 1-star reviews, only because I had a problem like this where one of my iPhone books, which was not a book about about everything, here's how to use your iPhone, here's how to set it up. It was a specifically targeted book about here are ways to get types of media in a pre-App Store world onto your iPhone and to actually access and use it. Could not have been more clear. It was actually part of the title of the book. Someone gave it a 1-star review because it didn't teach him how to set up the iPhone. And I basically had to, like, this is when you could actually talk to people. It's like, are you telling me that if you paid your money, you got this like 300-page book, Scotty, that if instead every single book simply said, "Hi, Scotty, you're a stupid idiot. I have your money. Ha 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 ha," you would still have given it a 1-star review because you could not have possibly given it a lower review. So all the time and work I went into producing what I thought was a valuable contribution to like being able to make use of your wonderful, hot, trendy iPhone 1 or iPhone 2, that was no better than a book that simply said, "Haha, Scotty, you're an idiot" on every single page. Is that the argument you're making by giving it a 1-star review? Or I put it to you, if you are even unwilling to acknowledge that you simply did not read the description and bought something that was not the book that you wanted, perhaps a 3-star review would have been more appropriate because, wow, this was clearly a lot of work went into this. It is better than 300 pages in which every page says, "Ha ha, Scotty, you're an idiot. Now I have your money. Ha ha ha." This is why, like, if you leave a 1-star review for anything and it is not as bad as a bad piece of commerce as that, I think that you should rethink how you use the star rating system. That's all.
Well, I just want you to know, Andy, I just bought it on Amazon for $10.11. I spent an extra penny, and I am going to leave an excellent review as soon as.
Thank you very much. You are an officer and a gentleman. Reader,
because there's only one, and I think if I put in a 5-star, that'll balance it out a little bit.
Actually, got reviews. It actually got a review in the New York Times.
Wow!
It said Andy in Mac user Andy is often informative and usually funny. In this book, he is always informative and sometimes funny versus always funny and sometimes informative.
Perfect.
And
perfect.
A friend of mine basically sent me like 10 copies of that, saying, "Oh
nice.
my God, it's the International Copy of Record." Like I thought that it's a nice review, but thank you. Nostalgia.
Bad news for Marquez Brownlee. Bad reviews on his wallpaper app, which was admittedly at $12 a month, perhaps a little pricey for the market.
When I put it out, I was like, "Oh, that looks great." And then
$12 a month. What are you, crazy? No. For wallpaper? Well, if you buy a year, it's only $50. Anyway, he's shutting it down now after a couple of years. It's just,
if you take a lot of photos, I have to say, if you take a lot of photos with your phone, and you have a big iPhone library, and you set it to just grab your family and give you random photos, because it reframes them around the clock and it does all the things, and I look forward to looking at my phone every single time I pick it up to see what it grabbed, to put there. I think that the wallpaper business is not a good one.
It's hard to get people paid $12 a month for something they get for free, pretty much.
Yeah. And honestly, my message to everybody is like, I'm totally with Alex here. Like, the best gift you can give to yourself is, I'm going to create an album that just has nice paintings and nice photos and things that will make me happy, because there are so many different ways you can have that feed into like an e-paper wall display or a smart display or just automatic wallpaper. I have like 5,000 or 6,000 works of art like in a Google Photos image library, and every time I pass by my TV, it's like, oh, that's pretty. Like, I wonder. Like, because I added to the library like 4 years ago and I totally forgot about it. It's like, oh, that's some curator is really in tune with my tastes. I'm gonna 5-star that person. Like, oh, it was me. Got it.
He actually, there were 900,000 downloads over the couple of years it was out, $95,000 in consumer spending across iOS and Android. But the downloads had slowed down a little bit.
And he also lost his developer, it looks like. And then had this question of like, what's the benefit? Do I really want to put myself through this? And, in hindsight, when he noticed people liked the wallpapers and his reviews, he probably should have just bought the rights and put them up for free.
Yeah. That's probably what he should have done. But, live and learn.
Yeah. He's a smart guy. He'll figure it out.
Yep.
Some things work out, some things don't.
Yeah, he tried.
As Stephen Sondheim once said in the lyric, don't be afraid that it won't be great, just be afraid that it won't be.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Company.
Let's see. Do we need, how many? John Ashley.
Hi.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
I need to take one more break.
Well, one more break, yeah.
Okay, so let's do a couple more things, and then we'll take that last break before our picks of the week. I'm just trying to time it all out. Let's talk TV, shall we? There has been. Let's see. This is from Andy, who's paying closer attention than I am. There is a TV show called The Savant that was going to come out a couple of months ago, right?
Yep.
And Apple said the time's not right, and then now it's just gone.
Yeah.
This was Jessica Chastain's series. She was something she'd worked hard on. It was supposed to come out in September. It was delayed after the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Although it's not exactly. It's about she plays a top secret investigator who traces white supremacists online to prevent violent attacks. So Apple's ostensible reason is, well, we're just going to delay this for a little bit. It would be tasteless to release it, and now it's gone.
Yeah, and it's super weird considering that Apple delayed the release of the Peanuts summer camp movie by a month for exactly the same reasons, because there was that horrible, horrible tragedy in Texas where floodwaters took out a summer camp. But that was exactly the right call, but they released it a month later. And so it's... I don't want to speculate, but maybe
it wasn't a good show.
Was there? Well, but they made it. Well, and it's like there were bad shows they put on Apple TV. It's just
what about Batgirl? Where's Batgirl? I'm asking.
Okay, hold on. You keep saying it's gone. Apple said they're delaying it and it will premiere later, and it's not on their release schedule. I don't think there's any news here. There's the other show that got The Hunt got postponed because which is a French show because it was accused of plagiarism. But I don't think Apple has Apple announced something about Savant. I thought they just were holding it and would release it at a later time.
I added that as a postscript to the story about The Hunt, but it still to me is weird that they didn't say, oh, by the way, we look forward to releasing this in a certain time frame. The fact that the subject matter and the amount of bowing and scraping that Apple is doing institutionally towards this presidential administration makes it relevant to at least wonder, was the content of this a little bit too touchy? I'm not saying that's why they did that. I'm saying
there's no news about this. This is the same story we talked about way back when, which is they delayed it and they said it would be released at another time, and now the news is just that it's still
haven't released it yet. And I think that they also, I don't know if it's this president or not, I think that they want to make sure that they're clearing the Charlie Kirk cloud before they do something. How long? I don't think all the data is in on that one. So I think that that's part of the problem. Is it's kind of like, well, we'll just wait for a little while and see what happens.
I added it as a postscript because it's easy for a delay like that to simply, maybe if we just don't make an announcement as to when we will release this, people will forget all about it, and then we don't have to release it at all.
Sure.
So again, if in the context of another piece of news about, hey, there's another series that's being pulled because of plagiarism, in the context of that, I think that it's worthwhile to remind people that there is Jessica Chastain you could see how professional she was being in her comments to the press, because it wasn't just, oh, well, gosh, it's coming out now. It's like, no, she's got her whole press tour set out. She's got her promotional tour set up. She knows it's going to be dropping at this point. She's going to have a lot to talk about. And she was saying that, I forget what the exact quote was, but it was something along the lines of, my opinions on the reasons for the delay of this are not aligned with Apple's at this time. We look forward to audiences being able to see it when Apple chooses to release it. Let's not forget that this thing is in the can and ready to be released, and Apple should be releasing it at some time.
I think that's fine. I'm not saying that that's not fine. I just want to clarify, because I think that that this was not clear, that nothing happened here. It's a thing that happened in September.
I'm just trying to remind people that's fine.
Well, Andy, okay.
In my mind's eye,
Andy, I am not lecturing you. Honestly,
plagiarism about this, and
it's because Leo made it sound like there was news, and there isn't news here.
No, there's no news. I
want to be clear, because Leo said there was news, and then he mentioned Batgirl, which is a project that was folded for entirely different reasons, and now somebody might walk away from this episode thinking that Apple has officially scrapped the Savant, and it'll never see the light of day. There's no news. We don't know. It might. Okay. It's worth asking the question, as Andy did, and remembering it, since the hunt has now been put into limbo because somebody accuses it of being an idea that they had before, which is like, oh boy, what goes on there, and is there a French lawsuit about that?
Wasn't just Andy. The Guardian also, in the same article, said, the hunt is not the first Apple TV show to have been pulled from launch at short notice this year.
Of course. Of course. I just want to make it clear there's no news about the Savant.
There's no news.
The Savant remains completely in limbo three months later, which is absolutely true. Just to say, there wasn't a report about it being killed or anything like that. It's in limbo like this other show. Apple now has two things in complete limbo for different reasons.
Right. Well, and I'd like to point out that Frankenstein is a really good movie.
Oh, was it?
Have you seen Frankenstein yet?
No, I love the director.
The only bummer is this gets back into the whole Apple, Disney, Netflix, whatever. Netflix compression is so bad. Like if someone from Netflix is watching, so bad. So you have a dark film, it just gets beat up. It is the best Frankenstein ever made. It is probably one of the top 5 movies I've seen this year. So well done, and so poorly compressed. And
That's a shame.
I feel like if you're a filmmaker, please just look at the Netflix movies before you agree to doing a movie with them, because they gave the director unlimited control, $120 million. Here you go. We're not going to tell you anything. We just get to control the release schedule. And what they did is they only put it out for 3 weeks to films, to get potential Oscars. And they immediately took it off quickly. They didn't promote it very far because they want you to watch it on Netflix. And unfortunately, watching on Netflix means that you have to watch through the compression. But it was just, I felt like while watching the movie and being so amazed at how good a Frankenstein film I worked on.
Is it because there's a lot of dark stuff that you notice?
It's a lot of dark stuff, but Netflix is just cheap. They just don't want to pay what they need to pay.
Can you download it or buy a DVD or Blu-ray or anything?
Unfortunately not. And so that's the bummer, is that if I was a director and watched what their compression did to my movie, I'd be bummed that I spent all that time and money on something that's the best it's ever going to be. I mean, all of them have some
think
challenges.
Guillermo del Toro would have the clout to do something about that?
I don't think he has control over that. I mean, I don't think, and it's just anyway. I know I keep bringing it up, but it's just like I don't watch Netflix very much because the compression drives me crazy, and maybe I'm probably more sensitive to it than most people. But I just, for most people it'll just look a little soft. But for me, I know why it looks soft.
Here, good news. Guillermo del Toro confirms Frankenstein will have a physical media release.
Oh, good.
With deleted scenes even.
So good.
So UHD is coming. Maybe that was why he said, well, Netflix will certainly give me a lot of, views. Mm-hmm. And then
they gave him something that most filmmakers don't get, is to tell a story where they're not giving you a bunch of, there's not a lot of production notes, from the production company. In fact, that was the one.
Creative freedom is nice.
He had complete creative freedom to do what he wanted to do. Yeah. And it's a really well done Frankenstein. So anyway, if you like Frankenstein,
should I not watch it? Should I wait for the DVD?
Yeah, you can watch it, but I'd watch. If the Blu-ray was coming out soon, I'd probably wait and buy it.
Yeah. Well, we don't know actually.
Yeah.
Lisa and I've been kind of holding off, waiting till the holiday season was over.
I have to admit, I kind of forgot that it existed until I saw a film, an article. I read some article about how Netflix had. Oh, I watched the thing on YouTube about how Netflix had just shortened his theatrical release to 3 weeks. Didn't do any promotion of it. Just put it out there, and they made like a $280,000 or something out of a $120 million film. But it became clear that the reason they did that is because they have the value of that movie was to get people to go to Netflix, not to watch it in a theater. So, but this is one of the few movies that if I had known what I was going to see, and if it came out in a theatrical release now, I'd probably go see it just to see it in the film. My wife said that. She was like, I wish we could go to see this. And she watched it with me, and she's like, I wish we could go to the theater and watch it.
Here's the good news. The encoding on the first snow of Fraggle Rock is perfection itself, because it's Apple TV coming out on Friday. The Fraggles are back with guest artist Lily Pons. So there. Is that that's a Muppet-like kind of thing?
It's a Henson production. Yes. I keep forgetting that's not part of the Muppet family canon, and therefore not part of what was sold off to Disney. Yeah. So they're free to do exactly whatever they want with it. And I'm glad to see it under the purview of a different creative studio than Disney, because I don't think that Disney has been a really good stewards of the Muppets so far. Although
Moose Espionage in our Club Twit Discord says they didn't keep the original Fraggle Rock theme song.
Huh.
Not good.
It's a good, catchy song.
Yeah, why would you? Maybe there's a licensing issue. Maybe.
I thought, well, if they have the rights to the characters, why wouldn't they have the rights to the title song?
Maybe that was expensive. I don't know. You don't know. Maybe the Henson estate said you can have the show, but not the song. I don't know. All right, Pluribus. Still good?
Yep.
Getting better? If you read this, I haven't listened to the podcast, although apparently there's a lot of good stuff in there. And Apple did that, because that's the best way to keep the buzz going. But if you read the Reddit subreddit on Pluribus, there's a lot of theories about what's under that tarp. We don't know.
Don't know. And that was an early drop before Thanksgiving, so we have to wait longer than a week to find out what it's. No, it's. Look, this is made by a confident creator who knows how to tell a story and has plans to tell it for a while.
And must have had the schedule too, right? I mean, he kind of knew what was going to happen.
Well, Apple built in a 2-year pickup that when they won the rights to the show, there's a 2-year pickup. So, at the very least, Vince Gilligan knows that he's going to be able to have a season-ending cliffhanger and then a second season. So
this is gonna go. Apple and Red have announced a limited time $3 million Apple Pay partnership. It's great that Apple's still doing this. The federal government decided not to commemorate World AIDS Day, which I thought was kind of shameful. But Apple has confirmed that they will donate $5 for every qualified purchase made through Apple Pay through December 7th to Project Red, which helps raise awareness and money to fight AIDS. It ain't over. And Apple, who has been a great supporter of Project Red for years, is continuing.
Yeah. Are there any reasons why they don't continue to do lots of Project Red devices? Because if nothing else,
Red app phones are great, man. I love
and boy, to have one guaranteed non-boring device in every single Apple lineup, colorway was wonderful. And I don't know whether I don't know why they aren't doing that as often as they used to. Not that they're not doing a lot of good things. It's just that Project Red is one of those things you kind of like. You kind of like to see it.
If you've wondered how Microsoft got Halo, apparently Halo, which was created first on the Mac, actually was created by Bungie.
Marathon.
Which did Marathon first.
Yeah, demoed at Macworld Expo.
Yep.
Really wonderful. Marathon was great. Really enjoyed it.
Best game ever.
Yeah.
And let's point out that this was a time when, oh my God, there's an actual good game that's being developed for Macintosh, and it's not like a Tetris clone. It's actually a first-person shooter that's with a storyline and characters.
It was going to be the third-person shooter for Apple Macs. Master Chief's and Halo's co-creator Marcus Leto talked about what happened. Steve Jobs showed it at the 1999 Macworld conference.
Summer Macworld, East Coast.
This is an interview with Kent State Magazine. We got up on stage with Steve Jobs at Macworld. We talked about it there. Microsoft eventually called Bungie, which was at that point in a spiky financial situation, says Games Radar Plus. And then Microsoft said, Steve Jobs can't have that. We're going to buy you and move you all to the Pacific Northwest, and then we're going to have you build this game for the Xbox.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's what everybody knew, but just another version of that same story. Steve Jobs can't have this is hilarious. My favorite aspect of this, and it was such a great demo, and everybody was just blown away. That was 1999 Macworld New York.
The song.
It looked so good. And the coda, though, is that it's the only Halo game to be released for Mac because they had a deal to release it for the Mac. It just happened, like 2 years after it shipped on Xbox. But it was actually great when it shipped on the Mac. It was fun to play. I played it a lot on the Mac, especially with friends using network multiplayer. But it was really just there as
so fun.
Yeah, to check a box because, the demo was so impressive. I would phrase it this way. That Macworld Expo demo was so impressive that Microsoft decided to buy the entire company so they could use it as their launch title for Xbox, for the first Xbox. Like, they put all their money down on Halo, and it worked. So
it did. It was probably to this day the most successful, iconic franchise on the Xbox.
Yeah. You never get that kind of creative and financial investment as when a company, even one as big as Microsoft, decides that we have an entire platform that will sink or swim based on our launch titles. And this is not just going to be Space Invaders in 3D. This is an entire world that we can build. This is an entire story that we can build out in chapter after chapter after chapter, and seeing the potential of this type of a game. It's nice to see that kind of thing. So it's nice to see that kind of creative investment saying, you know what, we feel as though this could be something much, much bigger than, hey, an A-list, a AAA title for Mac for a platform that doesn't get many AAA titles. We feel as though this could be an entire creative universe. This could be a Harry Potter, if that even existed at that time.
On a sad note, Manhattan Macintosh users will, of course, know TechServe. The New York Times called it a Manhattan emergency room for frozen hard drives, keyboards, screens, and their confounded owners. The founder of TechServe, David Lerner, passed away this week at the age of 72. So, sad note. I don't know. Did you guys know him? I did not know him.
I didn't know him, but I was a regular visitor to TechServe. Like, even when I had nothing that needed repairing, so I'm going to stop in TechServe just for the vibe. Like the idea of an era before the Apple Store's Genius Bars, where if you needed to get it fixed, God knows where you could go to get these things repaired. But you were in this enclave of mutants and pirates who could fix damn near everything, could do data recovery. But back when these machines were not necessarily so securely put together that they could not be repaired on a component level, the number of people you would just see just nervously, like, sitting in those chairs in the waiting room, hopefully wanting to hear back that, okay, yes, it was bad that your PowerBook 140 fell off the top of your car when you drove away with it. However, we can actually put it back together again. It's going to cost you some money, but you will have all your data back. It was such a vibe.
Actually passed away November 12th of lung cancer, but the news just getting out in the New York Times had an obituary for him.
Yeah. The fact that he was culturally significant enough, at least to New York City, that they felt, no, we're going to give him a full obituary. That shows you how important TechServe was. Featured in Sex and the City too. That was like when it raised its profile a little bit higher.
Well, yeah, if you were a a New Yorker, and that means a lot of famous people in the
Yes.
90s,
Yeah.
and you had a Mac, TechServe, and early 2000s, but TechServe was the place to go. And people would, like Andy, would go there just to go there, or they would be the ones who would be the go-to. And I'm sure there are 1,000 stories of people who were famous in the 90s in New York who were had their bacon saved by TechServe. And it was, again, people who only know the Apple Store era don't understand that, like, before there was an Apple Store, and if you live in an area, you might get a little taste of this now, but before there was an Apple Store, this was it. There were little independent repair shops.
Yep.
And they would sell you computers maybe too, but they also repaired them. And the good ones were really, really good. And the bad ones were bad. But the good ones were really independent Mac sales and repair.
I feel that way
organizations were
about
great.
Tom Santos and MacAdam on Mission Street in San Francisco, which is one of the great VARs, Apple stores.
I broke my power. I broke my I think it was a power.
I remember this happening, actually. Andy.
Like the morning in the press room before, like the keynote, I tried to pull. It was booting up, and I tried to slide it towards me on the cloth that was on the table, and I accidentally, my thumb went underneath it, lifted it up 1/4 of an inch, and it fell down, and that was enough because the head was like reading and writing at that point. At boot stuck, there's that. It was dead. But I went over there, and they set me up with install disk. They set me up with a new hard drive. At least I did not get the presentation back that I was supposed to give in exactly 42 hours after that, but at least I had a working machine again.
I had the same issue. I had a PowerBook. The power supply, the place where you plugged it in broke off. Apple said, well, you're going to have to replace the whole logic board. It'll be $1,500. I brought it to Tom. He said, no, we're just set it back in place. It'll be $3.53. And it was like, wow, I love this. TechServe closed in New York in 2016. They auctioned off, this is from PC Magazine, about that time, John Kalish, our good friend writing the story. They auctioned off a lot of the memorabilia. I wish I'd gotten that TechServe sign. I don't know where I would put it, but I wish I had. Look at this. Pickup Repairs now serving 82. Insiders now serving 42. Service now serving 38, all on classic Macs. That's awesome.
Yeah, anytime I needed something in New York, that was where you went. And it's actually every time I had a meeting that was related to Apple or video, usually we would go and work out with TechServe. They had these little offices up upstairs, and that was always a safe place to go meet, hang out with some folks, and they would usually organize all the stuff that was necessary.
One of the items,
space.
and I wish I had known about this, that went up for auction back in 2016 when TechServe closed, was this melted Macintosh. It was melted in a fire. The description on the auction tag read, no hard drive, distortion of plastic body, charring. It went for $1,200. Because look at it. It's a work of art.
I think the closest I can come to what this store was, or this shop was, maybe like if you went to B&H Photo Video in New York City.
Sure.
Yes.
That's still a kind of a mecca for people who want media tech stuff.
Right.
And they have a website, and I've ordered a bunch of stuff from them, but they've got a physical store with 70,000 square feet. I mean, it's impressive. But like, again, there's not a lot of that anymore. Everything's like, just get it from Amazon, get it direct from the manufacturer or whatever like that. And that was even in the early days of the Apple Store, right? Like almost nobody had an Apple Store, and it was just a vitally important link. And was something lost? Yes. The best of those stores were amazing, but I will say the ability to have a tendril of Apple in your neighborhood, in your town, if you're fortunate enough to have one, is a much more consistent experience. And there are a lot of things like, I think the world is better as an Apple user to have Apple stores around, but could it match peak TechServe? Nah.
Yeah. I think part of the spirit lives on in lots and lots of little like speakeasy like shops where if you know a person who knows a person, after Apple has said, unfortunately we can only replace the entire top level assembly, including the keyboard, including 18 other components, but I know a guy who knows a guy who can actually, like, that one grain of rice sized capacitor that's gone bad, they can actually remove it, replace it with a fresh one, and actually get you out the door for less than $300. And they don't have to sell you 40% of a brand new MacBook in order to do it.
We have a lot of New Yorkers in our various chats who are sharing their memories of Texters. Some good, some positive, some negative. Actually, when one thing ends, another thing is born. 34 years ago, QuickTime was born, and a little tribute to QuickTime today in Macworld by a guy named Jason Snell.
It's true. I mean, we always are looking at the, what's the latest anniversary to write a story about. Macworld likes those pieces from me, but QuickTime was
it's
really
still around. That's what's amazing.
Well, this was the peg of the piece is that it's first off, most of what happened in the 90s at Apple was kind of a disaster. In the mid 90s, especially, it was kind of a company that was falling apart. But QuickTime was, entered the world in a place where the idea that you would play video and audio simultaneously on a file, press play, and you would see it on your computer was just not a thing that happened. And so it came in and, you got QuickTime 2 supported half of the resolution of standard def video at 30 frames a second, which was it was mind blowing. And it wasn't even SD video at that point which was in the 90s. So it was a framework. It was a container. It had this great advantage of the idea is they created that MOV file, the movie file. It was a container format. So you could put different stuff in it. Everything video and audio was so disparate. And they're like, we're going to build a container that you can put stuff in. And there were different codecs. And it was still messy, but it was Apple trying to kind of drive the video and especially video on computers forward. And it was a good time for that because this became the CD-ROM era. And although video files, movie files were huge, there was plenty of room on a CD-ROM. And so you got these connected, before there was an internet where you could have this stuff, you could put a disc in, Cinemedia or the World Book Encyclopedia or whatever, and you would have so much information at your fingertips, more that could fit on your hard drive by far. And multimedia was a part of that. And that also led to, more broadly multimedia CD-ROMs. So QuickTime was a huge enabler of that. When the internet came, they tried to adapt. There were other companies that adapted faster, like Real Media that did real video. But, Apple still had its media prowess. They did the QuickTime streaming server. They kept the QuickTime app on the Mac, the old QuickTime app on the Mac for a long time. What's there now is not really QuickTime. I think Alex was sort of suggesting that it's just an app that does video stuff. But basically when Catalina came out and killed the old QuickTime app, it was sort of the death of QuickTime. But the file format, not only when Alex and I were down at Apple doing this immersive video thing, did they say, here's Apple's immersive video format. It's a QuickTime movie. Because it's still that format is so flexible that Apple still uses it. And more broadly, everybody still uses it. Because if you're using, at any point, playing an MP4 file, that's a QuickTime file. The QuickTime file format was the basis of MPEG-4 containers. So in a way, it has faded away, but it's done that thing where it's spread out so translucently that it's dissolved away. But it's with us everywhere now. Plus, Apple still uses it, and Apple's connection with video professionals is still strong, in part because of all the work that Apple put into QuickTime. That's my QuickTime plug. Alex, I yield the floor to you.
It's just such a paradise lost. Just this. It was one of the most amazing containers ever made, and there was a point where after QuickTime 7 that Steve Jobs decided to gut it. And just, laid off a bunch of the team, stripped it all down to make it more, easier for mobile and all these other things. There was a black market for a long time for those QuickTime 7 keys.
Yeah, because they used to sell you the QuickTime 7
QuickTime
Pro
you got a key. You got to get a Pro key because the Pro. Yep. The thing about QuickTime you had all these. Number one is you had the format was flexible, so it wasn't just video. It wasn't just. It could be QuickTime VR. It could be QuickTime Movie. It could be multiple layers. It could have Flash. You can't open any of the training that I did in the early aughts because we built it all in Flash so that we could fit it all into a CD-ROM. So everything was all built on these Flash layers inside of a QuickTime movie. And you could build interactivity to jump from one part of the movie to another, to jump to another layer, there was all these incredible tools that TribeWorks made, I think, a bunch of tools that would allow you to, take full advantage of the QuickTime format, and having something that was completely self-contained, that would allow you to a completely self-contained thing that I could send to somebody, and if they have a Mac, they can open it, and it's got all these features and buttons.
Literally double click.
Yeah, you double click and you open it up, and it could have interactivity, it could have multiple things, it could have multiple layers, it could do all these, you could have caption layers and all kinds of other things. There was so much as a Swiss Army knife for dealing with media that was in QuickTime 7, especially as it grew up to that level. And it was just really hard to watch it get, taken down. Now, I will say, the current QuickTime is very powerful. Being able to just open up and do a screen, there's a lot of us. The reason I did it in Flash was for a long time, one of the reasons we did it in Flash, we couldn't capture our screen. And so while you have to buy Snagit or do other things for other places, the incredibly flexible, video capture and image capture that QuickTime has, or video capture that QuickTime has, or movie capture or audio capture. If you just want to grab something, the current QuickTime has a lot of incredible tools. It's just hard to look. Anybody that's old enough to remember what QuickTime 7 was, you just can't believe that we just threw it away.
Yeah, it was basically this versatile media editor, and the QuickTime player now really is. It'll let you trim and export,
Right.
but the old one, you could put in multiple audio tracks and add it all up and still save it out as an MOV, and it would still do it. I didn't even mention, my story mentions it, QuickTime VR, which was in the early days. I remember getting the QuickTime VR developer kit, which created these wild tools. That's essentially what we do now when you are in panorama mode on your phone and you just do this. But back then it was like you take a film camera and you'd shoot 360 and then you'd scan all those photos.
Not just 360, you had a Kaidan. Remember the Kaidan rig, which was this thing that would hold the camera so that you wouldn't have any parallax, right?
Yeah, you could do that. I was working cheap, and I just used a metal tripod that's hanging in my office right now. But yeah, and it's a day. Literally, I shot 360 on film, got the film developed, scanned the pictures in, and then you run it through this super janky $500 piece of software to do what Photoshop will now do in about 10 seconds. Or your phone does just as you move around. Right. But the end result was I have, and it was literally, I shot it the last week my parents owned the place I grew up in, and I shot outside and inside 360 panoramas, and I still have those files. But the QuickTime VR I made, you could double click it, and not only could you move around the panoramas, but then you would look out the door, and the cursor would change, and you could click, and now you were outside, because I could build in all the interactivity to jump between the different files or the different images that were all in one giant MOV. Right. And the big winner there was for nerds of a certain generation, Star Trek: The Next Generation Interactive Technical Manual, which what it was really that they shot all the sets of Star Trek TNG in 360 using the Kaidan and covering up the parts that were not built with 3D models of the ceiling and things, so you didn't break the illusion, and then wired them all together. And that was a CD-ROM, and it blew people away. It was really awesome CD-ROM. You could be on the Enterprise.
Is any of so what survived? Somebody in the Discord is saying that the Apple immersive format, the video container, is.
I said that.
Is still QuickTime.
I said that the Apple immersive format is that container format. It's a quick. The guy stood up on stage and he said, "Oh, it's got this enormous resolution and this thing, and if this looks familiar, it's a QuickTime."
It's QuickTime. Wow.
Because it's a container, and that was actually in some ways, I think, one of the brilliant things about QuickTime was this concept of the MOV
and it's still
as a container.
It's still a container, just a much simpler container. I mean,
so let's explain that. So there's a file, there's a movie video file format.
There's a thing that says I'm a move, but how that video is compressed, it could be H.264, H.265, Apple ProRes, it could be immersive, it could be there's all these different,
and the audio could be lossless, it could be lossy. And they all just get thrown in the file, and then you can choose what to play, or it chooses what to play.
So it's more like a suitcase that holds a bunch of assets.
Right. And back in the day when it was invented, you would end up with a video file in a very particular format and an audio track in a very particular format. And so they made it this flexible format to the point
and so forth.
To the point that it got picked up by MP4, and that actually even today as a concept, the MOV file is great because you could throw anything in it. You could throw an immersive file in it, and it'll just take it. And it led to complexity because you double click an MOV sometimes and be like, what will happen? Because if you didn't have the Sorensen video codec, it would be like, I can't play this. You're going to have to go download the codec.
Well, and what really became a problem was mobile. So the iPhone couldn't handle it. That was you could open.
That was the death
then you
knell.
got to a point where you had QuickTime. And you could open it on the reason it got stripped down, I think, is because you could open it on a Mac, but you couldn't open it on an iPhone, and that became a problem.
Yep. Anyway, happy anniversary.
Happy birthday, QuickTime.
I have to say that
4 years.
a couple of us are watching
going
it.
strong.
I remember opening it up and seeing this little file, and already imagining at that moment, a couple of us were like, "Film is dead." Like as soon as we saw that, we were.
I
like,
remember how excited you were about all of this. Yeah,
and you immediately see the trajectory. Like you were just like, "This is just going to get bigger and
you
faster."
You talked about the idea that you might have a video of people around a campfire, and you could click on the coffee pot and say, "What? Where can I buy that?"
We built those in QuickTime.
Yeah.
We built simulators. We had this thing called the REI team inside of Pixel Core, where we bought a bunch of stuff from REI, and then we did this whole thing and. Everything that you're watching this little how to build a fire, but everything around it was all interactive.
All for sale.
Click it all. And that was in like 2002, 2003. I mean, it was all, built into there at that moment. And those were invisible layers that were, tracked over top of it, everything.
Yeah. Let's take a break, and your picks of the week are next. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Special thanks to our club members. So nice to have you, all the folks in the Discord. We're having a lot of fun in the Discord with a variety of things. The advent of coding puzzles are going on. We've got a pretty good contingent of people solving those. And thanks to John Arnold, who is a mayor of an English town, but also created a leaderboard for us. Our AI user group is coming up on Thursday, 2 p.m. We're actually going to get a demo. Larry in our club is going to do a demo of the new coding IDE from Google, which should be very interesting. The anti-gravity, that's what it's called. We also have our holiday drink episode coming up Monday for Windows Weekly. We decided not to do a best of with Windows Weekly. We're just going to sit around and drink. Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell, and I, and tell stories. That'll be noon Pacific on Monday. That's exciting. Chris Marquardt's Photo Time is coming up on the 12th. We have a Micah's Crafting Corner. Sometime, I think, Stacy's Book Club this coming month. Just some of the things we do with the club, you also get, besides access to the Discord, ad-free versions of all the shows. You get a lot of special programming that we do in the club only. We'd love to have you. It makes a big difference to our bottom line. It's 25% of our operating expenses are now paid by club members. And that means, that's a big deal. Without it, we would have to cut staff. We'd have to cut shows. So please, if you would like, twit.tv/clubtwit. We would love to have you. There's a coupon there right now. Make it a great gift for 10% off for the annual plan. There's also a 2-week free trial. A lot of other benefits. twit.tv/clubtwit. Thank you in advance. We appreciate it. This episode of MacBreak Weekly brought to you by Framer. I love what they've done now. If you're still jumping between tools just to update your website, take a look at Framer. Framer unifies design, CMS, and publishing, and it does it on a single canvas. So there's no handoff, there's no hassle, no importing and exporting. Everything you need to design and publish is there in one place. This is so cool. Framer already built the fastest way to publish beautiful production-ready websites, and it's now redefining how we design for the web. With a recent launch of Design Pages, which is Framer's free canvas-based design tool, Framer's more than a site builder. It's a true all-in-one design platform. From social assets to campaign visuals to vectors and icons, all the way to a live site. Framer is where ideas go live, start to finish. And here's the best part. It's free. Framer, it's a free, full-feature design tool. Think unlimited projects, free. Unlimited pages, free. Unlimited collaborators, free. And all the essentials. You get vector graphics, 3D transforms, gradients, wireframes, everything you need to design totally free. Now, you might say, well, I don't get it. Well, they have a pro version, the paid pro version, but really, the free version is amazingly capable. And it gives you all the benefits of Framer, your entire workflow in one place. No more Figma imports, no messy HTML. It's faster, it's cleaner, it's more efficient, and it's more than just websites. You can design social assets, campaign visuals, icons, all the site resources without ever leaving the tool. No context switching makes a big difference. Framer stands above the others because it's not just a site builder. Framer is a true design tool that happens to also publish professional production-ready sites. If you're ready to design, iterate, and publish all in one tool, start creating for free at framer.com/design and use the code MacBreak for a free month of Framer Pro. That's framer.com/design and use promo code MacBreak. Framer.com/design, promo code MacBreak. Rules and restrictions may apply. Time for our picks of the week. Let's start with Alex Lindsay this week. Alex.
So I have to say that when Logic came out on the iPad, I kind of poo-pooed it. I was just like,
so cool.
I was like, this, like Final Cut and Logic, I was just kind of like, well, you still want to go back to the desktop and do the work. And my daughter, and she's in a band, and the lead singer and her decided to do some music over the weekend, and she was like, I just need to record some stuff. So I was like, well, I don't want to put a whole computer together and everything else. So I got a USB pre from sound devices thing I had laying around and plugged it into an iPad and opened up Logic. And I just hadn't really spent that much time in it. And it was just such a pleasure. I think I like the iPad version of Logic better than the desktop version of Logic.
Is it because of the touch?
It's just the touch, and it all works. I mean, I think that they did it really well. And you're like, oh, I just want to add a track, and I just want to define this track. And I feel like it's actually simpler to get going on the Logic version of It's what you really wanted GarageBand to be. Right. GarageBand is too heavy, and it's got too many weird things in it, and this just does a really great job.
That's ironic. You're saying it's less heavy than GarageBand.
Yeah, GarageBand has always felt like it's too many things going on there, and for some reason this one just felt more streamlined, and just I actually find GarageBand to be a little bit difficult to use. But it's mostly, I used it heavily in the early days, but I've, moved to Logic a long time ago, and going back to GarageBand, it's kind of like, I don't really use iMovie. Like I use Final Cut, and Final Cut's kind of like the easy way to throw things together for me, and not so much iMovie. I get confused, and there's a lot of swear words involved, and so I have the same experience now with Logic, where Logic on the iPad is just, it's really smooth. And with USB-C or just plugging in devices and instruments and whatever you need, and it just pops up and works. And they recorded a song in an afternoon that if I was a music director, I would put into rotation.
Wow.
Like I was just like, holy smokes. Like they did all, it wasn't just them recording like 2 tracks. It was like layering harmonies and putting things together, and they did it all, admittedly, my daughter is a iPad native. I mean, she's been playing with tablets or an iPad since she was like 2 or 3 years old. So she's not, she really comfortably jumps into it. But I will say, I mean, I couldn't believe that they built all these layers and did all this stuff, and they had never used it before. Like I set it up and kind of got the interface connected, and then just walked away, and they came back with a song. So anyway, I just felt like it was worth talking about because I've not been.
How much is it now?
It's like $5 a month, I think.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Very cool. I agree. Logic Pro for the iPad. Andy Iannacco pick of the week.
Mine is kind of a weird one. If if you don't do 3D printing, I think you'll enjoy watching this video. If you do 3D printing, I think you're going to be thinking, I need to buy this creator a coffee and download the files to create this. A YouTuber called Paul Lagier, Lagier, created a perfect
cool.
3D printed version of the Apple clock widget. And I'm not saying that he kind of got it or he's echoing it. I'm saying that it looks like you're wearing Apple Vision Pro and you've got like a version of this virtually on your desktop. It looks so good that I was just like, I had a genetic response of looking for and clicking for some sort of a buy it now thing for a completed version of this clock because it just looks so perfect and so beautiful,
and it works. He put clock mechanism in
exactly.
It. Exactly,
it's a working clock, and it's
really neat.
I can't. And you will get this as soon as you see this. It's not like halfway towards there. Again, it looks like the absolute genuine article. And if he were to sell these, I think that he'd have trouble making them fast enough because I just want one of these on my desktop. It really is a good demonstration of how good Apple design is. That they created this just simply as an icon. As a live icon for and a live widget, but when you actually make the damn thing, it really does look wonderful, and you want to own it.
Wow, nice. Now he's not selling it, but you can watch the video, and
he's not selling it. You can again, I think that he has a coffee account, and if you put some money in his coffee account, you can actually download all the make files for it. So if you
nice.
if you have and he lists like here's the filaments I used, here's the colors of filaments I used, here's where they source on Amazon, the clock mechanism, and like I said, if I were had a 3D printer as a hobby, this would be high on my list of the next things to make.
Paul Lagier, I made Apple's widget clock with 3D printing. It's on YouTube. Lagier. How did you find that? It's not a huge channel or anything.
God bless the algorithm. It just simply sort of popped up. And one of the reasons for recommending is that I want more people to at least see this video. He has only less than 5,000 subscribers. This has only about 5,000 views over 2 months. Yeah. And it's too cool for this not to be like the sensation of the community because it's so nice.
He has a
why doesn't
page.
Apple make this? It's like that was his initial question.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you, Andy. And let's wrap it up with Jason Snell and his Christmas lights.
Very similar to, I think, what I did last year. I'm going to say I bought these last year, and I like them. The Govee Christmas lights. There are other brands. Its app is okay. It doesn't connect with HomeKit or anything, but it will let you do sort of animations, and it'll scan your tree, and then you can actually set things kind of pulsing up the sides, or it knows the shape, and therefore it can map that to the LEDs.
Oh, that's cool.
These are out there. If you are a nerd watching this show, which you are, that's 100% of the audience. I'm sorry to break it to you. You are one of us. You got to get smart Christmas lights for your tree because they are just entertaining. And even if it's just, in the morning, I want the vibe to be kind of mellow and I want it to be kind of like warm. And then in the evening, I want it to be bright and colorful and, blues or whatever you want to do, you can program with an app. And they look great. So like multicolor LEDs are a great innovation for Christmas trees and other things too. The one that I got from Govee on Amazon is great. There are others that are more expensive and less expensive, but this was, especially if you can get it on sale, pretty good buy. I am happy with it, and I'm looking forward to putting it on my tree again any moment now, next week or so.
Very nice. Govee, Govee. Christmas lights 2. Thank you, Jason Snell. 6colors.com and macworld.com. And that's where his article about the 34th anniversary of QuickTime resides.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll link to it next year for the 35th too. It's the calendar
and the 40th,
great that way.
And the 45th and the 50th.
It's just going to keep on.
Did you have to do a lot of research, or was a lot of that in your memory?
I did a little research. A lot of that is memory because I mean, QuickTime was right when I was starting in the 90s. That was when that stuff was going on, and it was a big. That was one of the ways Apple was trying to hold on to markets. It was trying to hold on to the video market as part of it, trying to hold on to the creative market in general, and so that was that seemed like a fun piece to write. And there's just a lot of good, it was fun to find a connection that a lot of the stuff we rely on today and that they're even still building at Apple is still using a form of QuickTime, that some of it has persisted, even though it's past its heyday.
Jason does many podcasts, including one with John Siracusa, Robot or Not. You should ask him about the Halo story. Apparently, he's still salty.
He's still steamed about it.
An upgrade with Mike Hurley and the Six Colors official podcast and more and more and more. Sixcolors.com. Thank you, Jason. Andy Anatko. Nothing to say, nothing to see here. Move along, move along.
Thank you very much. But I'm still active on Instagram and Blue Sky and lots of other cranky, and I'm working very, very hard behind the scenes.
IHNATKO. He's pedaling as fast as he can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And also, of course, Mr. MacBreak Weekly himself, the guy who started the show in the very beginning, Alex Lindsay. You can watch him every morning at officehours.global. Anything exciting to report, or is it just Q&A still? Or
we're getting up in the morning and we go, what should we do today?
I think that's really the best thing. There's so much.
We were talking
for that information.
We were talking about it over the weekend. It's actually a pretty hard show. It's simple in its organization, but getting 25 live questions with no warning, with no research, with no anything, and answering them every morning is, a great dojo for thinking. Like it's just, because it's coming in fast, and we've got, it takes about 15 or 20 people for that show to run every day.
It's amazing.
And so it's an incredible, we've got volunteers all over the world that make sure that the tech work. I mean, there are hours of prep for every that are getting checked out. I get the test stream at 3:00 in the morning, which is 4 hours before.
That's hysterical.
And that's getting lit up in the Philippines, and then there is other things are happening. And then the guy who oftentimes the person who greets me when I walk into the thing is in London or in some other country, and it's an incredible thing. So if you actually go check it out, it's a kind of a global production every morning.
And tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, AI for Creative Production, a special event at officehours.global.
We're doing these specials on Tuesdays because so we have we had extra hours yesterday, so that's just us kind of tooling around, and talking, and then specials where we kind of deal with something specific, and then on Thursdays we have the rundown, which is kind of a longer discussion. So some of the longer discussions are in the evenings, and then the kind of the fast form is in the morning.
You got a whole channel there. Office Hours. Global. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We do MacBreak Weekly Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1900 UTC. You can watch us do the show live, actually, if you want to. If you're in the club, it's in the Discord, but you can also watch on YouTube, Twitch, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. After the fact, audio and video of the show available on our website, twit.tv/MBW. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to MacBreak Weekly. Great way to share little clips of the video with friends and family. And of course, best way to get it, subscribe in your favorite podcast client, and you'll get it automatically the minute it's available. Leave us a nice review. We'd appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Thanks to our club members for making it possible. Episode 1001 is done. Next week, 1002. But as I have been wont to say over these last 1,000 episodes, it's time to get back to work now because break time is over. See you next week.